A report by the Inspectorate of Constabulary says an officer from Cheshire told the male victim that he should forget about it. The report says the police made mistakes in how they handled allegations against Saville, and it warns that a similar scandal could happen again. Sarah Kelly from the National Association for People Abused in Childhood said in years gone by, victims of sexual abuse were less likely to come forward than they are today.
I think the police coped very differently back in the 60s, but I think as a society, sexual abuse wasn't talked about. It was something that didn't happen. And children were very much taught about stranger danger, the dirty old man in the raincoats at the park.
The Care Quality Commission says people with dementia are not receiving adequate care because health and social care systems in England are struggling to cope. The CQC, which is responsible for maintaining standards in the health service, says those with dementia are more likely to be admitted to hospital with an avoidable condition such as dehydration. Labour will force a vote in the Commons later on the introduction of so-called mansion tax on the country's most expensive houses. Chris Mason reports.
Labour has recently adopted the idea of a new tax on homes worth more than £2 million. The Liberal Democrats proposed a mansion tax in their election manifesto 3 years ago. Labour hope to box the Lib Dems into a corner. Do they support their coalition partners, the Conservatives, who oppose the tax, or side with Labour and hope to defeat the government? David Cameron and Nick Clegg have tabled an intentionally broad-based amendment which acknowledges their differing views on a mansion tax but criticises Labour. The coalition will hope this will bind together Tory and Lib Dem MPs and defeat the opposition.
Roman Catholic cardinals embark on the process of electing a new pope today. The first of what are likely to be several secret ballots is expected to take place this afternoon. In sport, England locks Joe Launchbury and Jeff Parling should both be fit to face Wales in the deciding match of the Six Nations on Saturday. Saracens fly half Owen Farrell also trained this week and could play some part, although number 8 Ben Morgan is still injured. The weather, cloudy with the risk of a few outbreaks of light snow and a top temperature of just 4 degrees Celsius, that's 39 Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio. First for news.
Right, let's do this thing, shall we? Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It is flipping cold. It is, I know, look at that. It's cold. Oh, if I didn't have to be here, I so wouldn't be here. That doesn't really make sense. Hang on a second. Anyway, basically what I'm saying is if you have the option to bunk off whatever you're doing today, just bunk off, stay in bed. Stay in bed, listen to us. Until 9:25, then Kyle comes on. No. Lots on the show this morning, including, do you remember Roxana Whittaker and Andy Malcolm? They're the two local councillors who represent Hightown. They came on the show a little while ago. Well, it turns out that residents in Hightown don't want them as their councillors anymore. So they're taking matters into their own hands. Breaking news. We'll hear from a man who has a streetlight outside his house that won't turn off. And according to a new survey, the perfect relationship is when the gentleman is 4 years and 4 months older than the lady. Do you agree with that? What's the age gap in your relationship? And I've said it before, I'll say it again. If the age gap is 10 years or more, you're perverts and it's destined to fail. It's destined to fail. It won't work. It can't work. You haven't got the same cultural references. Lots of ways to get in touch, as I know you'll want to this morning. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can send me a text, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Put your name on it, please. Or, look at this, the switchboard is completely empty. You can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, it's a story that we've been following very, very closely here on Three Counties. Crime and antisocial behaviour in the Hightown area of Luton. Horrible stories of prostitutes having sex in people's doorways and rubbish chutes. Open drug dealing in car parks and local female residents being harassed by men who think they're street girls. Well, it seems that residents and local businesses feel they've been badly let down by their councillors and have taken matters into their own hands. On Friday evening, they launched an official petition for a vote of no confidence in the two local councillors who represent Hightown, Roxana Whittaker and Andy Malcolm. And they've gained nearly 300 signatures in just 3 days. days. You may remember I spoke to Roxana and Andy on this show a little while ago.
You've got to take an approach which actually solves the problem over a long-term period.
Right. I don't want a prostitute having sex up against my door or in my rubbish chute. So what are you going to do about that?
Well, so on the rubbish chutes, that is something the council can do something. So lots of these are police issues, but there are some council
so what are you going to do about that?
So with regards to rubbish chutes, we have got bin men now with keys, and they should be able to lock them, and that's only something that has recently come about. So we're still in the process of getting that into a situation that's actually working, because at the moment some of them are sometimes being left open, and obviously we're still talking to people about that. Well, it should be working from now.
Right.
But there are always going to be people who forget to do things that they're meant to do.
You can understand why people are upset about this.
I'm sure you forget to do things in your job.
I would not forget to lock a chute if I knew that there were prostitutes having sex in it and it was upsetting the local residents. I wouldn't forget that, no.
It's not part of your job, though, is it? So what I would say is we are talking to the council.
I don't know why you're finding this funny, because the residents aren't finding this funny.
I'm not finding this funny.
But you're making slightly flippant comments about it, and the residents are... Have a listen. This is what the residents said about the council.
I've spoken to Roxanne. It took quite a long time for her to actually get to see me. I spoke to her, and she mentioned that, that she's having talks with the police. It was just after that, when I spoke to a few other people, I found out that these councillors, so-called councillors and MPs, actually run some sort of organisation which gives these street workers a place where they can come and eat and clean and food, and sort of, I feel encourages them. And I was disgusted with that.
They just see me as I think, an eccentric thorn in their side. And in my view, they do not care, really. Well, I wouldn't say don't care, but they're not really interested in what goes on with us who have to live with the vice that they are so keen to help.
And we do feel like prisoners. And we don't feel like the police or the council care about us having to be prisoners.
Strong words.
Yeah, very strong words.
We've been around for 18 months and we're doing everything that we can to change it. And we can't do anything about what's happened in the past, but we can do our best to work for the residents now.
With a slow, long-term plan.
There is no quick answer to this. We want a sustainable solution.
Well, as you see, it got very feisty there. And one local resident who has campaigned hard for change in Hightown is Wendy, and she joins me now. Good morning, Wendy.
Hello.
Wendy, the people and businesses in Hightown have come together to stage this coup. Why has the petition been launched?
Because people have just totally had enough now. We've given them a long time. We've had horrific things going on in here in Hightown, not only with the prostitution, which, in all fairness to the police, we have seen less of that, but in the chutes, and the chutes are still unlocked. We've had 4 incidents where even a bus was shot at.
Sorry?
You haven't seen anything of the councillors. They don't come round.
Wendy?
Yes.
Did you say a bus was shot at?
Yes. We've had 4 incidents in Hightown. A local bus was shot at, and 2 passengers had to go to the walk-in centre, and the driver was in shock. A lady had a pellet in her door on a separate occasion.
Have you spoken to the 2 councillors in question, Roxana Whittaker and Andy Malcolm, about these issues?
I haven't, because in all fairness, they are a dead loss, and they do not work with us. And on that occasion, we've just lost everything that we should be able to do with councillors. We can't. And, it's not a nice thing to say, but people refer to Andy as the laughing hyena because he just finds everything so funny. So we go it alone. We do it alone. We've given them enough time and enough rope. And so now we've all got together, decided on this petition, and we are doing it to show that we just can't take any more.
So where is the petition now? Where can people go and sign it if they so desire?
The petition is with a lot of different individuals who I can't name because truthfully I don't know them. And the main petition is with a gentleman called Shazad, whose shop is on the corner of North Street and Old Bedford Road, and who is a gentleman who is very brave because he is constantly under siege from prostitutes.
What happens? It's got 300 signatures. How many do you need to get to trigger some action?
Well, I gather if we get 500 signatures, we can force a full debate in the council. But hopefully this petition is going to run for 3 weeks. So, though it's never good to count your chickens before they hatch, we're hoping for 1,000, just to show the strength of feeling against the lack of everything. And it is a sad thing to say this as well, but even the MP, Gavin Shooker's wife, is involved in Azalea with Roxana and his sympathies too. So we're in a sinking boat, you know.
Well, the charity you mentioned there is one of the things where people think there might be a conflict of interest. Do you not think that Andy and Roxana are trying their best, that they want Hightown to be better? They wouldn't want it to be worse, would they?
Well, I'm not in their minds, but I mean, I believe, you know, I'm quoting right when I say here, they both said they would not be speaking to the radio or the papers anymore. So if you've got no, you know, word going between each other, if you've not got this, then, you know, you might as well talk to the brick wall.
Wendy, listen, we have to end it there. It would appear there has been a breakdown of communication. We did ask Roxana and Andy to come on today. They declined, as did everyone we asked at Luton Borough Council. Actually, apparently, because of an election in one ward of Luton, we can't speak to your councillors on this programme and ask them the questions you want answers to. It's Purda. There's been a Purda. But I think Purda starts in about 10 days' time. I may be wrong. There's a little confusion about it. Anyway, we will be keeping you informed of this story. 08459 455 555. There is a coup in Hightown. Never heard the likes. If you've ever tried to get councillors ousted or been disappointed with what they've been doing for you, what happened? 08459 455 555. Breaking news after Sam and Dave. BBC Three Counties Radio. We do have a breaking news story that we're just trying to finalise the details on. We'll give you more as and when we can. It involves a parrot. Here's the travel news with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Well, not looking too bad out there at the moment. No major problems to update you with. Looks like the motorways are moving fairly nicely on the whole. The M1 in particular is looking good at the moment, and the M25 as well. No major problems to update you with there. Now, the A405 is moving well at the moment. No problems on the North Orbital, and also looking like it's moving nicely as well through Buckingham on the A421. Usually gets a little bit busy at this time in the morning, but is seeming to be holding out at the moment. On First Capital Connect services, we do have delays of up to an hour on the Bedford to Brighton line, all due to snow, so do check before you travel this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's 6:16, it's Tuesday, the 12th of March, and these are your headlines. People living and working in an area of Luton blighted by drugs and prostitution have launched a petition to oust councillors they accuse of doing nothing. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. In sport, Roger Federer is through to the fourth round of the Indian Wells tennis after a straight sets win over Ivan Dodig. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks, cloudy with the risk of a few outbreaks of light snow and a top temperature of 4 degrees. Coming up, we'll hear from a man who has a streetlight outside his house that won't turn off.
BBC Three Counties Radio. You can listen to BBC Three Counties Radio in so many different ways.
On FM
95.5,
103.8
and 104.5.
on AM
630 and 1161.
online at bbc.co.uk/3
counties and on DAB
digital radio.
Retune your digital radio now and look out for BBC 3CR.
Bringing local radio to you in more ways than ever
before.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So there's a survey in quite a few of the newspapers that says the best age difference in a relationship, to have the healthiest relationship, 4 years, 4 months, and that's if the man is older. Kind of about where me and my wife are, about 5 years, so it's kind of the thing. And even at 5 years, we struggle with that age gap because we have lots of different points of reference. She doesn't know a lot of the TV shows and a lot of the bands and a lot of the things that I'm talking about. So I think kind of 5 years, 10 years or more, seriously, there's something wrong with one of you, and it will never last. Well, Jay in Hemel Hempstead has texted in 81333, starting the text 3CR. There is a 13-year age gap between myself and my husband. He is 71 and I am 59. We've been married for over 30 years and have no plans to separate. Not yet, Jay, you don't. Not yet. Still time. It won't last. It won't last. 08459 455 555. Oh, this is cheeky. Someone snuck in Noah and the Whale onto BBC Three Counties Radio. Who'd have done such a thing?
There's a boy with his head pressed up to the window. The bus headed out of town. His breath on the glass, he draws with his finger the map of the roads they go down. And circles of streetlights, the only signal. There's people out there in the black. He waves goodbye, the town he grew up in, knows that he'll never come back. Oh, but the night outside is far below, his heart is pumping blood. On his lips a perfect smile, his eyes begin to flood. 'Cause tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. Tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. And the rumble strip clack and the rattling frame, the outer pulse on his head, and the engine hums a humble tune, a melody of rubber and lead. And under lamplight glow and paradise stars, an infinity of dancing white light. He sees that his death is to experience only, and not to those who plan out his life. Oh, but the night outside is far below, the moon is in the sky. His heart is full of perfect joy, he whispers his goodbye. 'Cause tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. Tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. And tonight is not gonna come back home. Oh, tonight is not gonna come back home. Oh, tonight is not gonna come back home. Oh, tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. Tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. Tonight's the kind of night where everything could change. Tonight's the kind of night where everything could change.
I like Noah and the Whale. I'd forgotten about them. I like them. They're a good band. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, and as you know, we are the first for news. And a new story is breaking now. We're trying to get you as many details as we can. We're going to go to our correspondent, John in Clapham. Good morning, John. Clapham, Bedfordshire, I should say. Not that horrible one in London. Ugh.
Yeah, good morning to you.
Good morning, John. Now, you've called in with some breaking news. What's happened?
I've lost a parrot, a macaw, so a pretty large parrot.
How big is this parrot?
Well, if he sits on a kitchen table, his tail will almost touch the ground. And if you give him a whole walnut, he can crush it. So powerful bird.
Does he crush your walnuts often?
Yes, he does. Yeah, it's his treat.
Ouch! Give us some details, John. What's this parrot's name?
Well, it's called Charlie.
Yeah.
And I've had him for over 30 years, and I had a pair of them, and his missus died last year.
Ah.
So he's tame but nervous, and obviously he wouldn't harm anybody, but if somebody approached him and, he got frightened, he'd give him a nasty nip.
He could crush their walnuts or tear an eye out?
Well, I'd hope he wouldn't crush their walnuts.
I hope so too. What colour is he? Let's get a description of this parrot.
He's scarlet, so he's unmissable. He's bright red.
Did you say you've had him for 30 years?
I've had him for over 30 years, yeah.
How old do these birds live to be?
Well, I was told that some of them live 60, 70, but when his missus died last year, the vet did say that's a bit of a fallacy.
Oh, okay. And where did you last see him?
Well, he used to live outside and fly free, so in the morning he goes out and sits on a rail outside. We live right out in the open, and he usually comes back round when the weather's cold and so taps on the front door, and back he comes in.
Yeah.
But he went out yesterday morning. I mean, his poos are not very pleasant, so that's why he goes out in the morning.
Sorry?
But so I saw him on the rail,
sort
of sitting in a bit of shade and enjoying himself, and then I went out about 10 minutes later, and he'd gone.
Oh.
And usually he stays around pretty close to the house, so obviously looked all round yesterday. But
John, if someone sees it, what should they do? A big net? Well, what's the best way to catch it?
Well, he'd be unlikely to come down unless for food. He'd probably be sitting on a tree or a hedge or something.
OK, John, listen, we're going to end it there, but keep listening. Dear listener, if you've seen Charlie, a giant, 33-year-old parrot-stroke macaw, scarlet in colour, 08459 455 555. We're on the hunt for Charlie. Can we get Charlie this morning? We're desperate for Charlie. Now, 4 years, 4 months is the perfect age gap in a relationship. That's if the gentleman is older. OK? It doesn't work the other way around. It's according to a survey. Is that true? 4 years, 4 months? Let's say 4.5 years. Is that true? Well, let's speak to my favourite relationship expert, Diana Parkinson. She's going to tell me if that's true or not. Diana, is it 4 years, 4 months with the gentleman being older?
Well, I've never heard this before.
You're hearing it now, Diana. We're the first for news.
I am a bit worried about the little parrot, and I hope he's found.
He's not little, he's massive. He can crush your nuts.
Little parrot, yeah. But no, I've never heard this.
Oh.
So, I don't know, is this somebody just trying to make some news or something interesting?
Are you suggesting that we would just throw something out to fill a gap? Is that what you...
Well, maybe. But it's
Yes.
a bit precise, isn't it?
It is precise.
Can you imagine if you're going up to date, you've got to work this out, this exact birth difference. But
Well, you can do... If you do the internet dating now, you could probably type it in.
Well, you probably can, but internet dating, I mean, it's a wonderful idea and it can work for some people, and for some people it's horror anyway, so it's a whole other complication.
Diana, can I ask, are you in a relationship?
I am. Very long relationship.
Oh, you sound tired and jaded. What's the age gap between you and your other half?
It's about 5 months.
Oh, OK, so that's very close.
Well, yes, and it's a long one. I'm a grandmother, so, you know.
Oh, there you go. Well, my wife is 5 years younger than me, and we kind of struggle with popular cultural references. She didn't watch the same TV shows as me and listen to the same music when we were growing up, so there are huge gaps in her knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an enormous age difference. But there is the whole cultural thing, isn't there, really?
Yeah.
But I think... I've no idea where this came from. I think it's just somebody trying to do something or make some news or something like that.
Would you agree with me, Diana, that 10 years or over, an age gap in a relationship, you're perverts and it will never last?
Oh, no.
Are you just saying that to be, but really inside you're thinking he's saying what we're all thinking? 10 years or over, it's wrong. That can never work because if 10 years, he'll be 70, you'll be 60. You're still kind of young and with it, and he's past it.
Well, no, I think I think the whole thing, as you said, the cultural references that we have do make a difference.
Yeah.
But if people are happy together, then it's fine. That's what's important.
20 years.
To love and be loved. It can be very difficult, and it's then what roles are you taking on? You know, is it parent, child, or what's going on?
Yeah.
But I think it's usually. I don't know, speaking as a woman, it's usually nice to be with a man of a similar age.
Yes.
But I think, there's the whole thing, I suppose, the sexual thing of men wanting a young, fertile woman, and I suppose the pressure on women to feel that men won't be interested after a certain age. So, it's a difficult one. I think when we're young, then you're going to be with somebody a similar age. I think as life goes on, then things can change.
Diana, thank you very much. Diana Parkinson, the relationship expert. Well, what do you think? What's the age gap in your relationship? Have a good, hard look at your relationship this morning, dear listener. What's the age gap? 4 years, 4 months, apparently, according to this survey, disputed slightly by an expert there, by Diana, is the perfect age for the most successful relationship. It's in loads of the papers today, so it must be true. And 10 years or over, the age gap relationship... It's not going to last. There are odd exceptions, like Jay, who texted in earlier on, but generally, it's not going to work. When Ronnie Wood, of the Rolling Stone, got married, he went and asked his girlfriend's dad for permission to marry his daughter. I think Ronnie Wood was older than the dad. Something like that, or about the same age. If I was the dad, I'd say, jog on, old man, get out of it. You dirty... Get out, you dirty... I'd get the shotgun out and chase him off my land. 08459 455 555. What's the age gap in your relationship? And 10 years and above, it really is. It's for deviants. Here's the travel news with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still looking fairly good out there at the moment. No major problems to update you with. The motorways are coping well. Looks like the snow not causing too much of a problem out there at the moment. Now, it is moving well around Greater London as well. The North Orbital Road looking good, approaching the Park Street roundabout, and eastbound on the A41 through Buckingham as well. Not looking too bad at all approaching the London Road. It does usually get fairly slow there, but at the moment not looking too bad. Now, we do have delays of up to an hour on First Capital Connect services on the Bedford to Brighton line, all due to the snow, so do check before you travel this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Let's get the latest news and sport now with Catherine Boyle.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 6:30. The headlines. People living and working in an area of Luton blighted by drugs and prostitution have launched a petition to oust councillors they accuse of doing nothing. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. And it's emerged that police failed to investigate an allegation of rape made against Jimmy Savile in 1963.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In League One tonight, MK Dons play Shrewsbury at Stadium MK, with the Dons still in with a chance of making the playoffs. Striker Ryan Lowe hasn't scored for the club since the 4-2 FA Cup win at QPR in January, but isn't concerned about his personal form.
Everything gets put on a back burner now. You target yourself, you try and reach your own achievements. They've all been put on the back burner, and that's not just me, that's every single player in the football club. That's what I see anyway, especially in our squad, that we just need to pick up points whatever way they come, but we're more than happy.
Also in League One, Stevenage are at home to Bournemouth. Borough will want to hit back after their disappointing defeat on Saturday. In League Two, Wycombe Wanderers are at home to Rotherham. The Chairboys lost on Saturday, and Gareth Ainsworth admits he already has one eye on next season.
It's been a big season for us, and next season hopefully we can kick on and do better. But this season's all about survival. I still want to finish top half. I'd love to finish top half. I still think we can do that.
Luton Town have Wayne Thomas back from suspension for tonight's conference match against Hyde, although he's likely to be on the bench. Scott Rendell may miss out after an injury which could see a first start for Alex Wall. In rugby, England locks Joe Launchbury and Jeff Parling should both be fit to face Wales in the deciding match of the Six Nations on Saturday. Saracens fly half Owen Farrell will also train this week and could play some part, although number 8 Ben Morgan's still injured. And finally, tennis. Roger Federer is through to the fourth round of the Indian Wells tennis after a straight sets win over Ivan Dodig. Rafael Nadal's opponent Leonardo Mayer pulled out of their match with a back injury, so Nadal will play Ernest Gulbis in the next round. And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 7 o'clock.
Across Beds, Hearts and Bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. We'll have the latest on the missing parrot in a little bit. But coming up in the next 30 minutes, residents in Hightown are trying to get rid of the councillors that represent their area. Hear more later on in the show. Breaking news. We'll hear from a gentleman who has a streetlight outside his house that will not turn off. And the perfect relationship is when the man is about 4 years older. Do you agree? What's the age gap in your relationship? 10 years or more won't last. There'll be the odd exception, but generally it won't last. You can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR, or you can give me a call, 08459 455 555. Well, the message is pretty clear from the people of the Falklands this morning. The referendum result came through overnight, and they voted overwhelmingly in favour of keeping the islands as a British overseas territory rather than opting for independence. Around 1,500 votes were cast, with all but 3 people voting to keep the status quo. The Argentinian government, which also claims sovereignty of the islands, has described the vote as a meaningless waste of time. Well, our reporter, Gavin Lee, is in the capital, Stanley, and joins me on the programme. Bring us up to date with the events overnight in Stanley, Gavin.
Yeah, I've just come back to the studio in Stanley. It's 3 o'clock, it's just gone 3:30 in the morning here, and we've been up all night, and there's been hundreds of families waiting for this result to come through, and they all were out in the cold with their children with face paint and Union Jacks. It came in at just gone 2 o'clock your time, so just gone 11 o'clock here, and they were all out at the main focal point where they gather, which is the gardens of the main cathedral, Christchurch Cathedral. All the politicians were in the town hall where the actual announcement was being made. There's a big tannoy system. It's a real party atmosphere, completely charged atmosphere as well. At one point, Don't Cry for Me Argentina came on the tannoy, and there were hundreds of people singing in unison, and there was something extra frisson to it given the occasion as well. Then the result was announced at 99.8% of 1,500 people voting yes, 3 voting no. Even the politicians said that they thought there'd be more voting no. They said there should be 95%, so they were thinking this is even clearer a message than they thought, and asked a number of people who were partying and celebrating what their thoughts were.
Excellent. I've got a tear in my eye. I'm just so thrilled. I mean, I'd have been happier with 100%, but it was awesome. We're British. Look at this. Feel it. Taste it. Love it.
Gavin, who were the 3 people that voted no? Have you met them?
I haven't. I don't think anybody's met them. This is the tricky thing. One person actually contacted the BBC the other day and said that they will vote no, that they wanted dual citizenship with Argentina because this problem's never going to go away, and ultimately it would be better for trade. So there was one person there who wouldn't be identified or named. The issue is speaking publicly about this. If there was somebody in this spirit and carnival atmosphere, it would be very hard to say anything else. But a few people did tell me tonight, or in the last few hours, that the way they feel about it, if they knew who it was, it wouldn't matter. They'd be welcome anyway. I'm not sure that's the whole island would say the same thing, but certainly I'm sure those three will stay anonymous.
There were election observers involved, some from Latin American countries. Was it seen to be a fair voting process?
It was, yeah. In fact, there was a British observer on a panel of 10 who was kicked off 2 days ago. Basically, he'd given a speech in the town hall, which was seen as too partisan to the Falklanders. So the British government got involved and said that he can't be on. So it was made up of all foreign observers, 5 from Latin American countries. They said they were happy this morning with the vote. It was a fair referendum process. It's interesting because I guess ultimately the point of this, Ian, a lot of people will be thinking, yeah, and what's going to happen next? It seems that there's a fair head of steam now. They've dispatched about 7 politicians to Latin America, to Washington, to Europe too, to try and spread the message. First of all, to get better links with some of the Latin American countries that have sympathised with Argentina publicly. Also to try and change the American position, which doesn't take a view on sovereignty, and try to lobby the UN, the United Nations, and ask if they can look again at, well, at the moment the UN position is to get a discussion, a discourse between Argentina and Britain. Does this vote change anything? We shall see. I asked Dick Saw, who is from the Legislative Assembly, what this means in terms of the history of the Falklands. This is what he said.
I think this is the single most important vote that anybody on the electoral roll in the Falkland Islands has ever cast. I really do. To me, this is a vindication of what happened in 1982. In 1982, 255 British servicemen died here, and they died so that we would have those fundamental freedoms, and we've exercised those tonight. So this was a really, really important statement from my point of view.
Gavin, thank you very much for that. That's Gavin Lee reporting from the Falklands. 08459 455 555. This next song was requested by our very own Justin Dealey. So here's a little bit of Tom Jones for JD. He's kind of like our own Tom Jones, isn't he? His shirt always done down to his navel, leather jacket, a little bit blurry, bit of a lech.
Love is like candy on a shelf. You want to taste and help yourself. The sweetest things are there for you. Help yourself, take a few. That's what I want you to do. We're always told repeatedly the very best in life is free. And if you want to prove it's true, baby, I'm telling you, this is what you should do. Just help yourself to my lips, to my arms. Just say the word and they are yours. Just help yourself to the love in my heart. Your smile has opened up the door. The greatest wealth that exists in the world could never buy what I can give. Just help yourself to my lips, to my arms, and then let's really start to live. All right. Yeah. My heart has love enough for two, more than enough for me and you. I'm rich with love, a millionaire. I've so much, it's unfair. Why don't you take a share? Just help yourself to my lips, to my arms. Just say the word and there you
Sing along, JD.
Just help yourself to the love in my heart. Your smile has opened up the door. The greatest wealth that exists in the world.
A little bit of Tom Jones. Huh?
What I can give. So help yourself to my lips, tomorrow.
Morning, sleepy eyes.
Let's really stop till you. Just help yourself to my lips.
Should we have a leisurely look at the front pages? Yes, let's. Let's take our time this morning. We don't want to rush it too much. 08459 455 555. The Guardian, a tragedy of their own making. Huhne and Price jailed for 8 months. Judge, you only have yourselves to blame. Twitter was ablaze yesterday with this news, and some people saying, "Oh, I feel sorry for the kids." Oh, poor. Yeah, the kids are like about the youngest is about 19, 20 years old. Why are you sorry for the kids? And I'm not. Part of me finds it a little bit uncomfortable. Listen, they muffed up and it's totally their fault. I don't enjoy this revelling in their misery, though. They've got what they deserved. I don't enjoy. Are you revelling in their misery? Are you celebrating the fact that Huhne and Price have gone to prison? Yes, it's deserved that they go. Of course they should. They did wrong. But I'm not going around going, yeah, high fives, guys. We nailed that Vicky Price, huh? Yeah, we nailed her. Are you celebrating the fact they've gone to prison? 08459 455 555. It's on the front page of all the newspapers today. The Daily Telegraph, brought to justice at last in a tragedy of their own making. Vicky Price and Chris Huhne are each jailed for 8 months for swapping speeding points. What other stories we've got here? Manager of scandal-hit hospital is promoted. Sir David Nicholson, the embattled head of the NHS, yesterday appointed as his deputy a hospital manager accused of suppressing an investigation into high death rates. Or let's see what Matt, the hilarious Telegraph cartoonist, let's see what he's got today. OK, so there's a picture of some people queuing outside a stationer's, and it's snowing. And Matt has drawn a poster on the window of the stationer's that says, "Calendar recall. Month of March mistakenly shows image of spring." Matt gets paid for that. He gets paid for that. Matt is my nemesis. I'm sure he's a big fan of my work as well. Yeah, you know, I'm sure he's quaking in his boots. But it's just awful. No one finds that guff funny, do they? The Independent. The remarkable story of the first British lesbian to get IVF. Okay. And there's there is a brilliant picture. I'm not revelling in their misery, but there is the brilliant picture of Chris Huhne with a camera shoved literally in his face. What was going on there? He stood there, defiant, as a camera is thrust up against his face. Other stories on the front page of The Independent. Revealed police could have stopped Savile 50 years ago. Police received intelligence suggesting that Jimmy Savile was a sex offender 50 years ago, but over the following decades missed chance after chance to bring him to justice. A damning report reveals today. And what you like reveals what you're really like. Sorry? If you choose to like something on Facebook, you could be revealing intimate details about your personality. Oh, for goodness sake. Psychologists who studied the website said they had nothing better to do with their time. No, hang on, sorry. Said they were able to accurately predict the sexuality, political views and religion of complete strangers. Oh, dear. Goodness gracious me. The Times. There's that picture again of Chris Huhne with his nose is bent by this camera shoved in his face. Jail completes the fall of Huhne and Price. Disgraced cabinet minister admits he lied to protect his political career. And Savile case flaws still dog police database. The Express, now again to the serious papers. Just how ill is the Queen? Fresh setback for Her Majesty. The Queen was forced to pull out of a public engagement yesterday as she struggled to shake off an 11-day illness. Public concern about her health was heightened after she cancelled her appearance at the annual Commonwealth Day observance ceremony at the last minute. She's 86 years old. She's had quite a nasty bug. Let her get on with it. The Daily Mail, the man who fell to earth. It's not David Bowie's new record. It's Chris Huhne. He dreamed of being Deputy PM. Yesterday, Chris Huhne confessing he lied and lied again to save his career was starting a new life in jail. And The Sun. There's a tiny little bit about Chris Huhne. I would say that's a third of the front page. And the rest is about a free £11 bet at Cheltenham 2013. And Gaza says, I was a Calpol addict. Gaza has revealed how his desperate booze addiction left him hooked on kids' medicine Calpol. If you're a parent, yeah, yum. That Calpol It tastes nice, doesn't it? It tastes nice because you're meant to give it to kids, and it makes you a little bit drowsy. I'm not recommending it, I'm just saying. I can see where he's coming from. Travel news now, here's Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the Barnet Bypass, it is still queuing at the moment between Stirling Corner and the Watford Bypass. Usual delays for this time in the morning. Now, the A405 at North Orbital Road, also still fairly heavy at the moment, just approaching the M25 Junction 21A roundabout. And the motorways are actually still coping fairly well at the moment. But on the trains, First Capital Connect still have delays of up to an hour on the Bedford to Brighton line, all due to the snow. So do check before you travel this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Morning, it's nearly 6:46. It is Tuesday the 12th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living and working in an area of Luton blighted by drugs and prostitution have launched a petition to oust councillors they accuse of doing nothing. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. In sport, one of the showpiece occasions in the racing calendar, the Cheltenham Festival begins today. And coming up before 7 o'clock, we'll hear from a man who has a streetlight outside his house that won't turn off. But before that, let's get the weather with Kate Kinsella.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it's a bitterly cold day outside. We've seen some snow showers overnight and we'll continue to see some throughout the course of the day. Not too much, though. Once the sun is doing its job, it won't cause too many problems. The problem it's causing when we do get these snow flurries is the visibility issue. Because the wind is quite strong, it makes things swirl around a little, making visibility fairly poor for roads. So extra care needed out there. Now, temperatures outside at the moment over at High Wycombe, -4. Just above St Albans, it's -3. And up towards Milton Keynes, it's around -2, so sub-zero and very, very cold in a strong northeasterly wind. It's actually feeling a lot colder than that. Through the course of the day, we're looking at a maximum of around 2 Celsius. That's 36 degrees in Fahrenheit if we're lucky, but it really won't feel like that at all. Now, overnight tonight, we'll notice the wind starts to ease. Some dry and clear spells. May get 1 or 2 showers at first, but eventually dry and clear with widespread frost expected, and also some icy patches as well. Minimum temperature down to -2, that's 28 degrees in Fahrenheit. Tomorrow morning, some bright spells, but we can expect more in the way of wintry showers moving in from the north. Maximum temperature 5 Celsius, 41 degrees in Fahrenheit, and that's your forecast.
Thank you very much.
Nick Coffer on BBC Three Counties Radio.
No 2 days are ever the same on my programme. That's because I get to meet passionate local people.
As usual, over a pint in the Queen's Head one night in Hampton, we said, hey, why don't we have a pop-up cinema? And we just got together and we convert Parkside Hall into a cinema.
Play loads of great music. The Byrds, Mr. Tambourine Man. Tell me which other show on the radio goes from Leanne Rimes to Elvis Presley. And sometimes I try to learn new skills. And then you've got the white thread basically connected to these bobbins, which
Don't mess them up.
I may have messed them up.
Nick Coffer, Monday to Saturday from 12 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Take a look outside your window, dear listener. Probably a lamppost outside your house. Well, the light should be turning off in a few minutes. And if it's not turned off already, well, imagine the nightmare of living with a lamppost outside your house that never turns off. There's one in Bedfordshire that's stuck on. It's been stuck on for the last 9 months. Terry Mailing lives near the streetlight in Barton-le-Clay and has reported the problem several times. But Central Beds Council say it's too risky to fix it. Well, let's talk now to our constantly on-light correspondent, Justin Dealey. He's been to visit the well-lit scene. Justin, my tongue is slightly in my cheek, but I bet for that poor fella, it must be a nightmare.
Well, he's not happy at all. Terry clearly not happy, hasn't been happy for months. The light was still on this morning. It's just like any normal street light, Ian, about 15 foot high, and as I say, the light was on. So I was with Terry this morning, just after 6 a.m. He was in his dressing gown. He was angry again that this light was still on. He took me to the street light, and this is what happened.
Well, Terry, this street light here, which we're looking at, how long has that been turned on, permanently on for?
I've reported it into the council last June,
but I understand it was on a few months prior to that as well, permanently.
And let's get this absolutely clear. That is on all the time. It never turns off.
Correct.
And why are you so angry about this?
Because of the waste of electricity. We hear horrible stories every day of cost-cutting and turning the lights off overnight to stop electricity or save electricity, and then this is on all the time.
So it's not a case of it shining through your bedroom, keeping you awake. You just think it's a waste of money.
Correct.
So when you have phoned the council and you said, look, there's this street light, it's on all the time, can you turn it off? What have they said to you?
They have said they will send engineers out to rectify it, which they did on one occasion, tail end of last year. This one they can't mend because it's a concrete one, and the health and safety won't let them put the ladders up there. The modern steel ones fold in half.
Hang on a second. A ladder. We're looking at this, and that's probably, I would say, what, 15 foot, if that?
Let's say 15 foot for round figures.
And they're saying they can't get a ladder, a health and safety ladder, to fix this.
Correct.
Right, OK, so if they're telling you that, as a local resident who is complaining, what's your reaction to that?
If you give me a ladder, I'll do it myself.
Well, can you go and buy one then? I mean, is it just you here? Is it just you who's unhappy about this? Because in the grand scheme of things, it's only a street light, Terry.
My neighbour at number 7, Richard, has also been complaining bitterly via emails, letters, phone calls with exactly the same complaint, and he's getting the same standard replies as I am.
I mean, what would you say to anybody listening to this right now who says, oh, come on, for goodness sake, get a life, you've got more important things to worry about?
Yes, I have, but it annoys me, the waste of materials from the Bedford Council. We hear horror stories every day of their cost-cutting, and there's 2 lights been blazing away for 9 months as a minimum.
OK, just lastly, genuinely, this does make you very, very angry. I can see that in your face right now.
Fuming.
What is your message to Central Bedfordshire Council? In your words, as you said there, you're fuming. What is your message to them?
Come and replace it, or get a ladder up there, or do something with it, mend it.
No excuses as far as you're concerned.
Correct.
I don't get this, Justin. I don't get this. How tall is this lamp?
15 foot.
Right. I've actually got a fear of heights, so I can't go up there. But you could probably go up there and do it, couldn't you?
To be honest with you, I didn't know what to expect this morning. I thought, well, we're being sent to a story where a man is angry about a street lamp.
Yep.
I thought this thing was going to be absolutely massive. That's why they couldn't fix it. It's just a small street lamp. In actual fact, I've got a picture of Terry with the lamp, and you will see that on the Three Counties Radio Facebook page, hopefully, in the next 15 minutes or so.
Now, listen, my tongue has been slightly in my cheek, but this is the kind of thing that would drive me nuts.
Why would it drive you nuts?
Oh, because it's the little things, Justin. The big things, they don't pull you under. It's not the elephants, it's the ants, Justin. And this is an ant. And just to have this every single day for 9 months, I'd walk past it and go, oh. And I would be on the phone to the council. I would be getting angry. And also, the council are wrong. They've misunderstood the health and safety laws. There is no health and safety law that says you can't climb up there and change the light bulb. They've got cherry pickers.
Well, what they're saying is that Central Bedfordshire Council, what they're saying are they're unable to come on the programme today, by the way.
Oh,
but
right.
Yes, but in a statement, they apologised to Terry for the delay in resolving this issue, which he's very passionate about, as you heard there. The council says a steel lamp post will replace the concrete column eventually as part of its programme to update streetlight.
When?
Eventually, they say.
When?
Eventually.
Is it eventually? Is that 2013? Eventually? Is that 2027? Eventually?
It could be a few months. It could be a few years. We don't know. But as Terry was saying there, it's not just him. Richard has been complaining bitterly about this. It's not a case of them being woken up or keeping a night they can't sleep because of it. It's simply because it's there, it's on all the time, and they think at the moment council's cutting back. It's a waste of money. Get somebody out with a ladder, with a health and safety form, and turn the thing off.
He's furious, isn't he?
He's not happy at all. Not happy.
Justin, listen, you do a music show on Saturdays, don't you?
I do indeed.
Give it a little plug. What time are you on?
On between 9 and 12, and it's a request show. Anything goes from 1950 to 1989. We play songs with memories, and this weekend I'll be talking to Eddie Amu from The Real Thing.
Ooh, which is always wonderful.
Yes.
That's very, very exciting. For those who may haven't listened and they're not sure whether they want to, I'm going to give you the chance to sell your show. The next song is Substitute. by the Who.
Yes.
Let's pretend it's Saturday morning. I'm lying in bed in my pants. I've turned on BBC Three Counties to listen to my mate JD, and he's going to introduce Substitute by the Who.
Oh, here we go. Here's a fantastic record from the Who. Substitute. Other songs called Substitute by Clout. This one, though, is the cream. From the boys, proper rock and roll across beds, hearts and bucks, with you in your underpants at home. Take it away.
Thank you, Justin.
You think we look pretty good together. You think my shoes are made of leather. But I'm a substitute for another guy. I look pretty tall, but my heels are high. The simple things you see are all complicated. Look pretty young, but I'm just backdated, yeah. Substitute your lies for fact. I see lies through your plastic Mac. I look all white, but my dad was black. My fine-looking suit's really made out of sack. I was born with a plastic spoon in my mouth. The north side of my town faced east and the east was facing south. And now you dare to look me in the eye. Those crocodile tears will watch you cry. It's a genuine problem you won't try to work it out at all. Just pass it by, pass it by. Substitutes me for him. Substitutes my Coke for gin. Substitutes you for my mom. At least I'll get my washing done. I'm a substitute for another guy. I look pretty tall, but my heels are high. The simple things you see are all complicated. I look pretty young, but I'm just backdated, yeah. I was born with a plastic spoon in my mouth. The north side of my town faced east and the east was facing south. And now you dare to look me in the eye. Those crocodile tears will watch you cry. It's a genuine problem you won't try to work it out at all. Just pass it by, pass it by. Substitutes me for him. Substitutes my Coke for gin. Substitutes you for my mom. Substitutes my washing done. Substitutes your lies for fact. I see right through your plastic Mac. I look all white, but my dad was black. My substitute is really made out of sack.
Fantastic. It was worth sticking around for. Here's the travel news with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
The M25 is looking busy where you'd expect at the moment. Anti-clockwise, it's slow between 26 at Waltham Abbey and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Also slow again at 21 at the M1 and 20 at Kings Langley. And very slow between 17 at Maple Cross and 16 at the M40. Now the Barnet bypass heading south is still slow between Stirling Corner and the Watford bypass. And also busy as well on the A405 at North Orbital Road, just approaching the M25 junction 21A roundabout. Now on the trains, we do have delays of up to an hour on First Capital Connect on the Bedford to Brighton line, all following the snow. So do check before you travel this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sophie, thank you very much. If you want to give us a call this morning, dear listener, you can do. Lots of things that we're talking about, including, apparently, the perfect age gap in a relationship is if the man is 4 years, 4 months older than the lady. Do you agree with that? What's the age gap in your relationship? And surely, any relationship where the gap is 10 years or more, it's never going to work, is it? 08459 455 555. Here's the news with Catherine.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. The headlines: Hightown residents revolt, papal elections begin, and Mega McCaw on the loose.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
People living and working in an area of Luton blighted by drugs and prostitution have launched a petition to oust councillors they accuse of doing nothing. Hightown residents have complained of obscene behaviour and open drug deals, but accuse Labour's Andy Malcolm and Roxanne Whittaker of dismissing their concerns. Wendy is one of the people campaigning for change.
People have just totally had enough now. We've given them a long, long time. We've had horrific things going on in here in Hightown. They are a dead loss, and they do not work with us. And, we've just lost everything that we should be able to do with councillors. We can't.
Luton Borough Council have declined to comment. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. The Buckinghamshire-based broadcaster denied groping 2 women in BBC studios when he was arrested as part of the so-called Others investigation in November. He's been taken off air by his current station while the investigation's carried out and is due to answer bail again next month. A review of how police forces across the UK dealt with allegations of sexual assault made against Jimmy Savile has found that he could have been stopped 50 years ago. Here's our Home Affairs correspondent Danny Shaw.
The earliest missed opportunity identified in the report occurred in 1963, when a police officer from Cheshire dismissed a rape allegation against Savile, telling the male victim to forget about it. In 1998, the Met failed to make inquiries following an anonymous letter which claimed the presenter abused children and used male prostitutes. The inspectorate concludes that such failures could be repeated because of inconsistencies in the way police deal with intelligence. The Association of Chief Police Officers acknowledged there were areas the service needed to improve on, but said it would take time and more money.
Heavy snow is causing serious disruptions in parts of south-east England. The worst affected areas are Sussex and Kent, where several centimetres of snow fell and some major roads had to be closed. Hundreds of motorists were stuck in long queues and some spent their night in their vehicles. Roman Catholic cardinals will today begin the process of electing a new pope. The 115 cardinals will each swear an oath of secrecy before they're shut away from the world to make their decision. John in Clapham has lost his parrot. He's appealing for the public's help to track it down, although if you do see it, advised to proceed with caution, because as John told Iain Lee earlier, the missing macaw is massive.
Well, if he sits on a kitchen table, his tail will almost touch the ground. And if you give him a whole walnut, he can crush it. So powerful bird.
Does he crush your walnuts often?
Yes, he does. Yeah, it's his treat.
In sport, jump racing showpiece event, the Cheltenham Festival begins this afternoon. Officials at the racecourse say they're not anticipating any problems after using 65 acres worth of frost covers to combat the recent sub-zero temperatures. The weather, cloudy with the risk of light snow and a top temperature of 4 degrees Celsius, that's 39 Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/Three Counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 3 minutes past 7. Is it still cold out there? I bet it is. Oh, it was bitter this morning. I had 2 coats on yesterday. 2 coats! Oh, it was cold. My little boy refused to wear a coat, though. He's wearing a T-shirt and a thin jumper. And do you want a coat on? No. Put a coat on, please. No! I'm cold, Dada. I know you're cold. Put a coat on. For goodness sakes. Lots coming up between now and 9 o'clock, including residents in Hightown are trying to get rid of the councillors that represent their area. Hear more in the next few minutes. We're also talking about the former Energy Secretary Chris Huhne and his ex-wife Vicky Price. They've been jailed for 8 months for perverting the course of justice. Are you revelling in their misery? I'm they should have gone to prison. But I'm not celebrating like people were on Twitter last night. And according to a survey, The perfect relationship is when the gentleman is 4 years, 4 months older than the lady. Do you agree? What's the age gap in your relationship? And anything over 10 years? Oh, it's not going to last, is it? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. You can go and have your say there. And some of you are being feisty on there already, which we like. You can also text in 81333. Start your text 3CR. Put your name on it, please. Or, look, the switchboard is completely empty. You can give us a call. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Prostitution and drug dealing are everyday sights for residents of the Hightown area of Luton. It's a story we've been following very closely at Three Counties Radio, and we want to get to the bottom of what's being done to ensure residents don't have to live in fear of being in their own homes. Well, earlier on we heard how residents have taken matters into their own hands by starting a petition for a vote of no confidence in the two Labour councillors representing Hightown, Roxana Whittaker and Andy Malcolm. Well, Liz lives in Hightown, and she thinks the approach of the councillors is terrible. Morning, Liz.
Morning, hello.
Good morning. What's the problem?
Oh, the problem? Well, it's ongoing and it's very, I would say, unpredictable behaviour, antisocial behaviour that is. Prostitutes, drug dealers, frequenting Hightown, the residential areas, whether it's car parks or in communal areas, or just people that live there, or all sorts of connections. But it's a problem that's been ongoing for the last, well, for me, it's probably the last 5 years, since living where I've been living. And it's just intimidating behaviour because they're basically, whatever they are doing, they don't care who and what and where and what time and how. Whether they need to get drugs or whether they're working, it's basically it's and antisocial behaviour at its most, rife, I think, at the moment.
We spoke to the two councillors who people are threatening to oust or trying to oust, Roxana Whittaker and Andy Malcolm. And when they came on the show, they did say that they were doing everything they could to rectify the situation. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I think obviously it has to it's a bit of give and take situation. Obviously they're trying to work with these people, but what I find is that, it's a bit of a one-way system because I feel like they're kind of contradicting themselves by sort of saying, we'll help you, but at the same time we'll kind of allow you to carry on doing what you're doing. I know that obviously these people do have probably underlying problems, but it's the fact when people like residents like us have to put up with this 24/7, and we don't know, what time these things can happen. We don't seem to have much protection on our side. It's like we're very, almost like bait, and just, even if you're in contact with, local community officer or whatever, you kind of find that, you're kind of there to sort of bridge the gap and sort of baited into the situation when you don't really want to get involved, but at the same time you have a right to protect yourself. So you kind of feel like you want to speak out about it, but you don't want to drag yourself into it because you saw these people they're dangerous, and you saw repercussions if they sort of found out, oh, you're talking to people about what they're doing, even though at the same time they need to, the police need to be aware of what they're doing. But you feel like you're in a bit of a catch-22, you're slightly in a trap.
Are you frustrated with the approach that Miss Whittaker and Mr. Malcolm are taking?
Yeah, well, from what I'm hearing, I think I feel like they're not. If they are Hightown residents, and I don't know whether they live in the area or not, but I do think whether they are personally experiencing it or not, they won't actually understand what it's like to actually live around this 24/7. I think that they need first-hand experience to actually have a position to have a say on it. If they don't, then they're kind of talking from a second-person perspective. You know what I mean?
Have you signed this petition that's going around? Would you like to see them go?
No, I would like to. I've not come about with that. I've only heard about the petition for counties, but if I could sign it, I would, sign it for them to go, because I don't think that it's they have to be. It has to be a reflection of the residents. Whoever's representing has to be a reflection of the residents in the area, and if they're not representing the residents on, taking the side of the prostitutes and the drug dealers and sort of taking more sympathetic approach towards them, which they do need help, but it's like all on there. So like they're kind of getting help, but at the same time they're being allowed to continue. You know, they're not sort of being reformed properly. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of sort of, you know, as I said, the whole thing they get. They do. Obviously, the police don't really arrest them because obviously, kind of like if they do pay for the fines, they'll have to go back and work again. And I think that's not helping them. They need to actually realise that, you know, as I said, they should probably go have a more of a stronger, obviously not stronger prosecution, but maybe there is stronger prosecution.
And Liz, just to highlight the situation, you were people knocked on your front door, did they?
My window in my kitchen. It's about afternoon time. About sort of after 3:30 sort of time. And someone knocked on my window, and I just went to the window thinking it was my sister. And the person basically just sort of said, "Oh, are you working?" I obviously assumed that I was obviously a working girl. But so obviously at the time I just said to him, you know, that doesn't happen here, sort of thing, and just sort of told him, like, no, sorry, wrong address kind of thing. So obviously the fact that they assumed it, that's the bit that got me, you know. If it was somebody that I'd probably come across and, you know, the corridor coming out and someone spoke to it and then thought, oh, okay, maybe it was just some random person I'd never probably had any contact with. So, yeah.
Liz, listen, we're going to edit that because it's not the greatest line, but to be in your house and there's a tap at the window, yeah, can I help? Are you a prostitute? No, I'm not. Get out. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Well, we did ask Roxana Whittaker and Andy Malcolm, the two councillors in question, to come on today. They declined, as did everyone we asked at Luton Borough Council. Actually, apparently because of an election in one ward of Luton, we can't speak to your councillors on this programme, which is frustrating. But we will certainly follow this story. And Miss Whittaker and Mr Malcolm, you're more than welcome to come on the show and put forward your side of the argument. I did interview them, and they did say that they were working to try and solve these problems. Maybe not everyone agrees with the ways that they're doing it. 08459 455 555.
This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
No sign of the parrot yet. No sign of the parrot. We are all desperate to find Charlie this morning. Another big story that we have been following is the street light in Barton-le-Clay that's been on for months. Earlier on in the show, Justin went and spoke to a gentleman, Terry, who's been complaining about this. And the council say, no, we can't, no, health and safety. We can't get a ladder up there, Governor. Well, I don't know why they were talking like Cockneys, but we can't get a ladder up there, Governor. Health and safety. Well, Jason in Hitchin. Jason, you're an electrician and a resident of Barton. Are you aware of this light?
Yes, very aware of this light. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a former electrician. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, well, to make it sound like you're a criminal, I'm a former criminal. I've gone straight these days.
However, the council are trying to lead everybody up the garden path.
Oh.
I've had a look at the photograph on Twitter.
Yes.
And I know exactly where that light is, in Barton-le-Clay, and they don't need a ladder, they need a key.
Oh.
If you look towards Terry's knees, you will see on the light, on the lamp post, that there is like an inspection cover.
Right, I'm going to go to this picture now, because I think it's on our Twitter, it's also on our Facebook, so let me just go and have a little look and see this. Okay, yes, I've got the picture in front of me, yes.
If you look down by Terry's knees,
yeah.
You should see there's a different colour patch on the lamppost.
Oh, yes.
That's an inspection cover that's held shut by a key and a lock.
Right.
If you open it, coming up from the bottom of the lamppost, you will find the electrical wire supplying the lamp.
Yeah.
That goes into a fuse, that then goes into a time clock, that then goes up to the lamp. The lamp's one of the old styles, so I don't think it's got the photosensitive cell on top that detects light and dark.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that the timer is faulty. There's nothing wrong with the lamp because it's on.
Hang on a sec. Jason, stay there, because Terry, who brought this to our attention, is on the line. Good morning, Terry. Terry? Terry, are you there? No, we seem to have lost Terry. Maybe it's gone dark where Terry is. Never mind. So you're saying that they can just go and do it with a key?
Yeah, you're going to need a qualified person, but ultimately all he's going to do is open the hatch, pull the fuse out, replace the time clock for one that works,
right.
Put the fuse back in, set the time, shut the hatch and walk away.
Right, Jason, this is the kind of thing that annoys me. Not your call, don't take offence. Kelly Betts, who's my producer today. Kelly.
Thanks, mate.
Kelly, can you...
Hi, Terry.
Oh, Kelly's on the phone to Terry. Kelly, what I want you to do today, after the show, if that's possible, is I want you to get onto the phone to the council and tell them what Jason's just told us.
Absolutely, I'm just going to tell them.
Just tell them that all they need is a key to go and unlock it and just fiddle about with a fuse and a switch.
Terry's on the line now if you wanted to have a chat.
Thank you. Terry, did you hear what Jason had to say?
No.
Oh, well, I'll recap because it was very in-depth. Jason basically said they don't need to climb a ladder. They open the little box by your knees that's on the lamp, and they can do it with a little switch. They can just switch it off.
Okay, all right.
Terry, listen, I'm going to take the role of JVS in this. Jason, thank you very much for your information there. Terry, listen, Kelly Betts, my producer, is going to phone up the council later on today and give them this information.
Yes, please.
And see if they can do something about it.
Yes, yes.
That's what we're going to do. You've not. By the way, Terry, you've not seen a big parrot flying around, have you?
No.
Okay, that's a shame. Thought we could have two birds, one stone. Not literally. Travel news now. Here's Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, all looking much the same at the moment. Anti-clockwise on the M25, still slow between 26 at Waltham Abbey and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Also slow between 21 at the M1 and 20 at Kings Langley. And again, very slow between 17 at Maple Cross and 16 at the M40. Slow again, where you'd expect, southbound on the Barnet Bypass. It's queuing between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. And the A405 at North Orbital Road, also fairly slow, just approaching the M25 junction 21A roundabout. Delays of up to an hour on First Capital Connect services between Bedford and Brighton, all following the snow. Everything else not looking too bad there this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. We may be achieving something this morning. We're going to put a call into the council and see if they can send someone round with a key. 7:16. It's Tuesday, the 12th of March. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. People living and working in an area of Luton blighted by drugs and prostitution have launched a petition to oust councillors that they accuse of doing nothing. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. In sport, Olympic heptathlon champion Jessica Ennis has been named Sportswoman of the Year at the Laureus Sports Awards in Rio. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks, cloudy with the risk of a few outbreaks of light snow and a top temperature of 4 degrees. Coming up, a Luton resident is so concerned about cricket, golf and football sailing over his garden fence, he's suggesting that a nearby sports facility should close. We'll hear more before 7:30.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Tackling your consumer problems.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
My son took it back to the garage. The mechanic says, yeah, I know what it is. So they took it in, done what they had to do, and the car was still the same, still doing the same thing.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
The long and short of it is, he agreed that he would replace the car.
If you have a consumer problem,
we can do the same for you.
I'd like to thank you and your team for everything you've done. We wouldn't have got where we got without you.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to call that a result. Any other problems, you know where I am, Stuart.
The JVS Show.
Fighting for your rights.
Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, let's just set the record straight. I'm going to be the new JVS because my team, not me personally, I'm too busy. My team are going to be checking eBay. My team will be phoning the council to make sure that this light gets switched off. And also, you listen to the trails there with JVS. Doesn't he come across nice? Oh, he's so nice. He's so lovely. Remember, it's the man that also did this.
Are you ready? Yeah. Here he comes. Move to him. Stay with him. Bang. Oh, look at it!
Yep.
Yes!
He's shooting a deer.
Oh. I've trained a killer.
Yeah. You feeling good? You hit it?
I'm feeling really butch.
Yeah, that's JVS shooting a deer, dear listener. Wow. And you trust him? He's on at 9 o'clock. He's always a cracking listen. 08459 455 555. Now, a Luton resident is so concerned about cricket, golf and football sailing over his garden fence that he's suggesting a nearby sports facility should close. In a recent incident, a cricket ball from the Warden Hill Sports Ground nearly hit Xanadine Parker's daughter as she played outside their home. Well, we've sent our stray ball correspondent Justin Dealey to the sports facility now. Justin, where exactly are you?
Ian, good morning. I'm on Hillcrest Avenue in Luton. Now, this sports facility here backs on to people's back garden. The only protection they have, and it was quite interesting being here this morning to actually see this. So, if you're in your back garden, there is a fence at the bottom of your back garden. That fence is about 20 foot high, and then you have the sports facility where people are clearly playing football and also playing cricket as well. Some of the residents here not happy. One of those, as you mentioned, is Xanadine Parker, who joins us live here in our radio car. Just describe how bad it's been here, living here for you and others as well.
Well, mainly in the summer months, you're getting cricket balls and footballs flying over the garden, hitting property and almost hitting people.
Comes to the people in a second, but your carport has got various dents in it from these cricket balls.
Yeah, I've got 4 holes in my carport, which isn't ideal because the carport's there to keep the rain off. The rain's just falling through the carport, so if I went to fix one of the holes, 2 months later, there'd be another hole. So would I keep fixing my carport or do I just let it happen?
You're saying to me you feel like a prisoner in your own home. Your daughter was almost killed, in your words, last year. Can you tell us what happened there?
My wife and my daughter were in the garden. My daughter was playing on a little bike on the patio area. A ball comes sailing over the fence, lands on the patio area about a foot from my daughter's head. As you can imagine, a ball from that height and that speed, it hits a child flush on the head, it's going to kill them.
Luton Borough Council, I'm sure you've been in conversation with them. What have they said to you? Because you want to protect your family.
The way they see it is, if it's a cricket ball, then it's down to the actual team who's hit the ball over, and it's down to the police to police the area with regards to football and the swearing.
This is your daughter's life we're talking about. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I think it's a complete disgrace, really, because when I asked them the question, what if the ball had hit my daughter, would they reconsider? They said yes. So, to me, it's a case of them being reactive rather than proactive.
So somebody's got to be killed before anything is done?
Sounds that way.
What about the language as well? I'm also hearing that the language in the last year here with the players, people playing football, playing cricket, is getting worse. Is that a fair reflection?
I mean, there are clear signs on the fences, no ball games against the fence, and it's just continuous smashing of balls against the fence, children swearing, and we've got a lot of elderly residents on this road who don't want to listen to swearing and who want to enjoy their garden. But they can't.
And have you taken matters into your own hands? If you're hearing somebody swearing and your children are in the back garden, have you gone over there and said, look, can you keep the noise down? I've got children here.
I have myself on a couple of occasions. I know one of the other residents have too, and they've been sworn out back, so not the ideal solution, to be honest.
OK, so would you like to see this club completely closed down? Is that the ideal solution for you? Just close it down?
No, I'd like to see the council try and find a solution, really, in regards to the cricket, whether they turn the pitch sideways and see how that pans out, and get the police to police the area to make sure children aren't kicking balls and swearing in the park, because everyone enjoys the park. I enjoy the park, my children enjoy the park, and a lot of residents enjoy the park, so I don't see why the park should go because the council or the police can't police the area.
OK, a couple of final questions for you. Do you feel like, in the summer in particular, you simply can't use your garden? You've got a lovely garden, do you feel like you can't use it anymore?
When the cricket's on, yes, most definitely.
OK. And you actually bought the property knowing that was there, though, didn't you? Because some people may say, well, what was there first? The sports facility was there first. You bought that property knowing there was a sports facility there with a big fence and this could happen.
Fortunately, the title deeds didn't tell us that we had to dodge cricket balls, so we weren't aware that cricket balls would come over. We saw a property which suited our family and with a lovely garden. We didn't think that we'd get constant balls coming over our fence.
So enough's enough now?
Pretty much.
OK, thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Xanadine Parker. It's interesting, Ian, because I know a lot of people who live very near to cricket pitches and these things do happen, but we're talking here about Xanadine's daughter, who was 1 year old at the time, and as he said there, from the council's point of view, he said, look, can you do something about this? If something serious had have happened, they may have done. As Xanadine has been saying there, why should he have to wait for something serious to happen for the council to try and deal with this situation for him?
That's the thing, you want things to be sorted out before before anything happens. Justin, you can see what it's like there. Would you enjoy having a garden that constantly had balls coming over the fence?
I mean, it's the point I made to Zainadine there, because obviously, when he and his family bought this property, they knew that sports facility was there. They could see the fence. Personally, it's a lovely road, it's a lovely property, it's a lovely garden, but personally, it wouldn't be for me because, as our guest has been saying, in the summertime, they've got that fence there that's about 20 foot high to protect them, but if somebody's playing cricket, at any point you could be laying in your back garden enjoying yourself and suddenly a cricket ball could hit you. So it wouldn't be for me personally, but that's just my personal view.
Justin, just to go off ever so slightly while we've got you on the line, we are desperate to find Charlie this morning. The team and I really want Charlie. It's a 30-odd-year-old parrot, yes. Violet. Right. It's huge. Have you seen it at all?
I haven't, but from what I've been hearing, he's quite a character. He's quite a powerful beast.
Oh, he cracks nuts.
If I do see him, I think I'll probably phone you and get you out instead.
Thank you very much. There should be a net in the back of the BBC vehicle that you use, so just bear that in mind. We are looking for Charlie. If you've seen him, it's a giant parrot. He's over... I say giant. Don't panic. It's not the size of a jumbo jet. But it's a big parrot, big old fella. He's over 30 years old. He's violet. We had a phone call earlier on in the show about it. If you see it, could you give us a call? 08459 455 555. Now, there's a survey in the newspapers that says the perfect age gap but in a relationship is if the gentleman is 4 years, 4 months older than the lady. That gives you the best chance of survival. And I've often said, my wife's 5 years younger than me, and that feels a little bit too much. And I do think if the age gap is 10 years or more, there's something dodgy going on there. It's not going to last. Well, Mike would disagree, wouldn't you, Mike?
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, listeners.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody in Mike's house. Mike, you are in a what I like to call a weird relationship, an age gap relationship, aren't you?
Hey, less of the weird relationship. I have a wife who is 27 years younger and is absolutely perfect, man. Absolutely perfect.
Well, let's get these stats out. How old are you, Michael?
I'm 57.
And so, how old is she? I could do the maths, but it's too early.
Well, Ruth actually is going to be 30 this week, so a very happy birthday to Ruth.
Happy birthday, Ruth. Look at this. Mike, have you ever been a DJ? You're getting everything out there. This is great stuff. I can take the morning off.
Well, you could take the morning off. I've actually been a radio presenter as well. But we'll push that to
I thought so. So, hang on, 27 years. Did you say 27? Did you say 23?
She's just coming up to 30 and I'm 57.
Okay, so yes, let's say 27 years. How did you two meet?
We actually met some while ago, a casual meeting. I was running a shop in Luton at the time.
Right, okay. And may I ask how old she was at the time?
I'll have to redo the math.
This is the problem, Mike. You're too old to do the maths. She could do the maths immediately, but your brain is starting to fade.
Well, this is a digital age, and I just rely on calculators all the time.
So, when you got together, and 27 is a significant age gap, what did your friends say? Did they say "Fwah," or did they say "Michael"? For goodness' sakes!
To be perfectly honest, in all the time that we've been together, everyone has absolutely praised what we have done. There's never been any comment on age apart from Luton Borough Council.
What did LBC say?
Well, they've actually never really recognised the marriage.
Why?
I really don't know. They seem to, in all the conversations, they really seem to have a problem with this age thing.
Well, what conversations are you having with them, and how has this come up? Is this to do with like bills and council tax and things like that? Or?
No, it's other matters which are really not for the radio. Nothing criminal or anything on that side, but really not for.
Okay, fine.
Really not for the radio.
But they won't. Your life is intriguing, Mike. I would love to go out for a cup of coffee with you one day and speak entre nous. But the council
only if I can have an hour of your show behind the desk.
You can have the whole week. I'm not bothered. But so the council won't recognise your marriage, and it's all legal, is it? You've signed all the papers and all the documents.
Yeah, it was actually done in Luton Registry Office.
Wow. Maybe they're trying to send you a message. Maybe they're trying to say, look, guys, come on, you Michael, Ruth,
well,
forget it.
I've actually rapped them on the knuckles once.
Wowzers.
because I don't take it easily that someone turns around and says, "Look, this, we don't recognise this relationship because you're too old for her."
Mike, listen, I appreciate you coming on. What an intriguing man of mystery Michael is, and happy birthday to Ruth. 27 years. Can we find a bigger gap than 27 years? I like the fact Mike was rightfully cagey in giving me the information. I wonder how long they've been together. How long will it last? Phil has texted in. Ian, it's not true. The age gap between my wife and I is 9 years, and we're still going strong 13 years later. Beth says, I'm 6.5 years younger than my husband. It works okay for us. People commented when I was 17, but now I'm nearly 35. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Can we find a bigger age gap than 27 years? Thank you, Michael, for that call. Very interesting. Here's the travel now with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Anti-clockwise on the M25, still looking slow at the moment between 26 at Waltham Abbey and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Also slow again around 21 at the M1 and 20 at Kings Langley. And reports of one lane blocked as well following a broken down taxi just between junctions 16 at the M40 and 15 at the M4. Callers are reporting that it's lane 3 that is blocked at the moment. And the A1 Barnet bypass heading south, still queuing between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. And on the trains as well, delays of 45 minutes on First Capital Connect between Bedford and Brighton, still ongoing due to the snow, so do check before you travel this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Let's get the news and sport now with Catherine Boyle.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. The headlines. A group of Luton residents have launched a campaign to oust their local councillors, accusing them of deliberately ignoring their area's drug and prostitution problem. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. And a review of how police forces across the UK dealt with allegations of sexual assault made against Jimmy Savile has found that he could have been stopped 50 years ago.
Beds, hearts and bucks sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In League One tonight, MK Dons play Shrewsbury at Stadium MK, with the Dons still in with a chance of making the playoffs. Striker Ryan Lowe hasn't scored for the club since the 4-2 FA Cup win at QPR in January, but he told BBC Three Counties Radio he isn't concerned about his personal form. Also in League One, Stevenage are at home to Bournemouth. Borough will want to hit back after their disappointing defeat on Saturday, and manager Gary Smith said they must be up for it tonight.
I don't think our fans will let us walk into the game flat and not giving it everything we've got. We do have some worries now, some injury worries. You know, we've got two guys out suspended now. Dave Gray's 10th booking. Gavin Mon will be a doubt.
In League 2, Wycombe Wanderers are at home to Rotherham, and Luton Town have Wayne Thomas back from suspension for tonight's conference match against Hyde, although he's likely to be on the bench. Scott Rendell may miss out after injury, which could see a first start for Alex Wall. Hatters manager John Still wants his side to start showing consistency.
I want them to enjoy what we do in both halves, except that you're not always going to win, but it's playing in a manner that when you get beat, that people look at that and go, they couldn't have done much more than that. Everyone has off days.
Jump racing showpiece event, the Cheltenham Festival, begins this afternoon. Officials at the racecourse say they're not anticipating any problems after using 65 acres worth of frost covers to combat the recent sub-zero temperatures. And finally, tennis. Roger Federer is through to the fourth round at the Indian Wells after beating Ivan Dodig in straight sets. Rafael Nadal is also through to the next round after his opponent Leonardo Mayer withdrew with a back injury. And that's the latest news and sport. More from me at 8 o'clock.
Catherine,
yeah,
we're talking age gap relationships. I don't want to delve too much into your personal life, not to be polite. I'm just not that interested. But is there? What's the age gap roughly between you and your fella?
3 years and a month.
Ooh, this is very precise.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard. We spoke to Michael just before your bulletin. The age gap between him and his wife is 27 years. If you were to go out with a man who was 27 years older than you, he'd be pushing 70.
Yeah.
Would you be able to cope with that?
He'd be older than my dad.
That would be weird, wouldn't it?
It would be very weird.
Thank you very much. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, In the next 30 minutes, what have we got? Streetlights, Hume and Price and Jimmy Savile. Who wouldn't want to listen to that heady mix? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. You can also go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/BBC3CR. And what's fun on there is if you start arguing with the other listeners. Don't be rude, no swears. Don't be nasty, don't be personal. But, yes, a little bit of that. Just a little bit of argy-bargy. A little bit of I was going to say, how's your father? But that's something different, isn't it? Yes, just light arguing. Now, speaking of arguing, the former Energy Secretary Chris Hume and his ex-wife Vicky Price have been jailed for 8 months each for perverting the course of justice. They were sent down by a judge at Southwark Crown Court after she took his speeding penalty points for him a decade ago. He admitted the charge just before he went to trial, while she was found guilty after claiming he forced her to do it. Well, Jeremy Dean is a criminal defence lawyer. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Jeremy, what do you think of the sentence? 8 months each. Some people might say it's a little harsh.
Well, I can quite see why some people might say it's a little harsh. In terms of the general approach to sentencing for this type of offence, i.e. perverting the course of justice, it's not a harsh sentence. It's actually straight down the line. It's neither harsh nor lenient. It's exactly the sort of sentence I think that criminal lawyers would predict the judge to have passed in this case.
His sentence, if I got this right, was reduced by 10% because he pleaded guilty. Doesn't seem a massive reduction.
No, I mean, the situation in Chris Hume's case is that the reduction of 10% was significantly lower than a defendant would get for pleading guilty at the first opportunity. I mean, the rule is that if a defendant pleads guilty at the first opportunity, there's usually a 30% reduction. The problem in Chris Hume's case is that for a very long time indeed, not only had he denied the offence, but he publicly declared his innocence. Then he pleaded guilty, really, when all options were closed. So I think the judge felt that realistically no significant credit was deserved, and that's why 10% was awarded.
8 months for speeding points. Is it because it dragged on so long? Is that if I asked my wife to take speeding points and she did, which she hasn't, would we get 8 months if we got found out?
Well, I'm afraid the answer to that question is almost certainly something along the lines of 8 months. I mean, on one view, what happened here was a sort of switching around of speeding points, and looked at, simplistically, I can quite see why you sort of put the question in the way that you do. On the other hand, this was a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, to conceal the truth from the authorities, to enable a person who would otherwise have been disqualified from driving to drive, effectively to, circumvent the law. And that's why there's a strong public policy in imposing prison sentences in this type of situation.
Are there other crimes that people might consider to be, minor, that perhaps lots of people have done, that could get us sent to prison straight away?
Well, I think that there are. I mean, for example, to just give you one example, this is a different type of situation, but, let's imagine that, there are lots of sensible people driving around listening to Three Counties Radio, and you just sort of feel that you want to switch over for a second and then obviously switch back again. And what results from that is that, you run someone over and you kill them. Now, I know that you're asking me about sort of minor offences, but what I'm talking about is just, not thinking about a situation, just being preoccupied, not really thinking through the consequences, and then the consequences, materialising much later. And for that type of situation, for a moment's loss of concentration, which leads to draconian consequences, a very significant prison sentence could be imposed. There are a range of other sort of more minor offences that could lead to prison sentences, but, I think that basically what the law tries to do is to sentence people for thinking bad rather than doing bad. But it's very easy to slip up and find yourself in big trouble.
Jeremy, what happens to Vicky and Chris now? Can they appeal? Is there any chance of getting the sentence reduced? And how much will they actually serve?
On the question of appeal, yes, the answer is that it is open to both of them to appeal the sentence. It's not easy to appeal a sentence. The test in the appeal court is not just whether the sentence is regarded as too long, but whether it's what we call manifestly excessive, i.e. markedly too long. I would be surprised if there was an appeal against these sentences, because they are very much within the range of sentence for this type of offence, and obviously we're dealing here with high-profile people. On the question of time served, I mean, the official position is that each of them is bound to serve half of their 8 months in custody. However, in this day and age, with electrical tagging and so on, it is feasible that both of them will physically be released from custody within about 8 weeks, and also perhaps slightly longer, 8 to 10 weeks. And also, I mean, today, sadly on one view, rightly on another, they wake up to the harsh environment of closed prisons. I would have thought Belmarsh or Pentonville in Chris Hume's case, Holloway in Vicky Price's case, but both of them are likely to be transferred to open prisons within a couple of weeks.
Jeremy, thank you very much. Jeremy Dean, a criminal defence lawyer. Well, what do you think? 08459 455 555. 8 months. They'll probably serve 8 to 10 weeks. Come out with the tag on, and they'll, after a couple of weeks of being in prison, they'll go to an open prison, which I've never been. I was going to say it's easier. I don't know. I've never been to an open prison. Certainly easier than a closed prison. Richard's in Winslow. Morning, Richard.
Good morning, Ian. How unusual. I find myself agreeing with you over the last few days on various issues.
I need to buck up my ideas then, Richard. We can't have this.
You do indeed. Now, listen, I don't want you cutting me off again today like you always do.
Yes. Well, it depends. If you talk rubbish, I might do.
I never talk rubbish. I leave that to... Never mind.
Get on with it.
This whole issue, that's what they all say, this whole issue about this Chris Hume affair, it's rather like saying, oh, well, I only pulled a trigger. Yes, but a bullet came out the other end and it killed someone, and that's what you're getting done for. You cannot have perversion of the course of justice. Otherwise, you end up with justice systems as they have in the Middle East and other countries. Now, for Chris Hume to do this, an elected representative in the government who knows far better than our Joe Average that, oh, well, it's only 3 speeding points, it is perverting the course of justice. 10 years ago, he's been lying about it for 10 years. If he'd taken a hit 10 years ago, he's an independent millionaire. He could have got a chauffeur. He could have been driven around. And I think the greatest tragedy of all of this is that he's not made to share a cell with his wife.
Well, some would say that their marriage was perhaps a prison sentence and they should be made to get married again, and that would learn. But Richard, I don't know if you heard JVS's show the other day. He was talking about this, and he had people phoning in saying, well, yeah, I've done this. I took points for my husband, or I took points for my wife, but in the great scheme of things, it's not the biggest crime in the world.
Taking the points isn't, perverting the course of justice is. Otherwise you will end up with justice system as you've got in the Middle East and other countries. We see all the time, bribery, corruption and everything else. You cannot allow a system of justice that is perverted by, a little nod and a wink and a lie and a bribe and this, that and the other. And where does it all lead to? You just can't have a justice system like that. We don't have one in this country, and that is why the judiciary, and frankly, I've got very scant regard for speeding laws. I said to JVS last week that on 2 occasions in my past, legally, I have avoided a ban in the old days when you got a barrister to nip along and plead your case, and I got a 7-day ban and it cleaned 9 points off. Lovely, that system is no longer here. However, coming back to this particular one, it's perverting the course of justice that you cannot allow.
Richard, before I do inevitably cut you off, have you seen don't cry. Have you seen a giant violet parrot in Winslow today?
There's one in my back garden. Why?
Don't let it near your nuts. It'll crush your walnuts. Richard in Winslow, you are gone. We are looking for a giant parrot. There's a parrot somewhere round and about in the 3 counties. It's violet. It's called Charlie. It's over 30 years old. Scarlet. I thought it was violet. Well, violet and scarlet are the same colour, aren't they? What colour's scarlet? That's like red. Violet's like mauve. Look at me doing basic colours. There's a parrot. Anyway, if you see a parrot floating around, it's probably not meant to be there. Earlier on, Justin Dealey was speaking to a gentleman whose garden backs on to a sports field, and he quite often gets balls flying over his fence. Well, Paul in Northampton has got a solution. What's your solution, Paul?
Well, you could do the hard way and not let them have them back, or you could make a bit of money and be generous and charge them per ball that you return to them.
Oh. Hey, you remind me, when I was a kid, I spent most of my childhood knocking on the next door neighbour saying, "Can I have my ball back, mister?" No one does that anymore, do they?
Well, no, because you only had a 6-foot fence between you and the neighbour, if that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, back when I was a child, they were only about 3 or 4 foot tall.
Yeah.
But he's got a 20 or 30 foot fence at the back of the garden, and they're still coming over.
There's those cricket balls, though. Listen, I refuse to play cricket at school because they are deadly. If you've ever caught a cricket ball, right, without gloves, oh, look, here it comes. Oh, my God, my fingers! It's the most painful thing in the world. So imagine living in fear of... You're in your back garden sunbathing or in your paddling pool or whatever, and you're dodging cricket balls coming at you.
No, that's actually a health and safety issue, I would imagine, because you could cause horrendous injuries if it hit you on the head or, any other parts of your body, or even your window or your child,
Yes. Paul, before I let you go, have you seen a giant parrot in Northampton this morning?
No, I think it's a bit too cold. We've got snow here in Northampton.
Oh, really? Is it deep enough to play about in, or is it just shallow enough to be annoying?
No, there's only a few flakes on the floor, I think from yesterday, but it's just ever so light, but there is a bit of snow here.
Paul, thank you very much. We are looking for a parrot that may be scarlet, it may be violet, we're not sure, flying around in the 3 counties. It's called Charlie. It's big, it's over 30 years old. Its partner died last year. So it might be looking... If you've got a lady parrot... that's in season, put it out and maybe that'll be the bait. Just don't approach it as it can crush your nuts very, very easily. It's its party trick. 7:45, here's the travel news with Sophie.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Anti-clockwise on the M25, we are looking at delays between junction 21 at the M1 and 15 at the M4. Delays of over an hour there, I'm afraid. And anti-clockwise, again, fairly slow between 27 at the M11 and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Around 20 minutes to get through that stretch. We're heading south on the A1. More delays between the St Neots Junction and the Black Cat roundabouts. And the Barnet Bypass also still slow between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. And the A10 southbound through Cheshunt, also looking busy between College Road and Churchill Way. Everything else not looking too bad at the moment, but on the trains we do have delays of 45 minutes between the Bedford and Brighton line, all due to the snow, so do check before you travel this morning. Sophie Tyler, BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Morning, it's nearly 7:46. It's Tuesday the 12th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC 3 Counties Radio. A group of Luton residents have launched a campaign to oust their local councillors, accusing them of deliberately ignoring their area's drug and prostitution problem. Former Radio 1 and BBC 3 Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the 3rd time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. In sport, one of the showpiece occasions in the racing calendar, the Cheltenham Festival begins today. Officials are confident. There's a word missing. I'm going to read what it says, and you can see if you can guess what word's missing. Officials are confident won't be affected. Any ideas? Who knows? Coming up, opportunities to stop Jimmy Savile abusing his victims were missed as early as 1964, it's emerged. We'll be finding out more about that before 8 o'clock, but now let's get the latest weather with Kate Kinsella.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC 3 Counties Radio.
Well, it's another bitterly cold start. The Met Office do have a weather warning in place covering parts of Buckinghamshire out to Bedford and Milton Keynes for icy conditions. Now, temperature outside at the moment ranging anywhere between -3 and -1. So, like I say, bitterly cold. Now, we're seeing some snow showers. We saw some overnight. We're seeing 1 or 2 this morning. Not particularly heavy, I have to say, but they are floating across us and causing a bit of a visibility problem as they're whirling about in the strong northeasterly wind, which means visibility-wise it's causing a problem. Now, throughout the course of the afternoon, or throughout the course of the morning, actually, we'll start to see some brighter spells as well, maybe even a little bit of sunshine once any snow showers move through. But temperature-wise, it's not going to get much warmer than it is now. We're looking at a maximum of just 2 Celsius, that's 36 degrees in Fahrenheit, and in that strong northeasterly wind, it will feel bitterly colder than that. Now, overnight tonight, it should stay mainly dry with some clear spells as well. also a widespread frost in place for tomorrow morning, and also more in the way of icy stretches. Minimum temperature down to -2, that's 28 degrees in Fahrenheit. Should start a brighter day tomorrow. 1 or 2 wintry showers. Anything that falls is likely to be a little more wintry in nature rather than snow, because the temperature a little less cold. Not warm by any means, but a little less cold than it is today. We're looking at a maximum tomorrow of 5 Celsius, 41 degrees in Fahrenheit, and that's your forecast.
Thank you very much.
Tonight, Three Counties Sport concentrates on League One and Conference football. MK Dons entertain Shrewsbury.
Surely not. Gleeson's shot! Oh my goodness me! It's me!
Stevenage host Bournemouth.
Now Stevenage with a chance to get the ball in, and it is in the net!
And Luton are at home to Hyde.
Comes to Rendell, who scores and the flag stays down.
All 3 games available for you to choose your commentary. Plus regular updates on Wycombe's match against Rotherham in League 2. Three Counties Sport, tonight from 7 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Opportunities to stop Jimmy Savile abusing his victims were missed as early as 1964, it's emerged. In a report published today, police inspectors say there is a distinct possibility that officers could fail to prevent another Savile-type scandal from happening again. The earliest record uncovered by HMIC naming Savile in connection with a sexual abuse investigation was dated 1964, but officers failed to act on the intelligence received. Well, our reporter Simon Thompson has been following this story and joins us now. Good morning, Simon.
Hi, Ian. Good morning.
So set this report into context. Why was it commissioned?
Well, Savile, of course, was a former TV presenter and radio DJ well known on our screens for many decades for programmes like Top of the Pops and Jim will Fix It. He was knighted in 1990 and died in October 2011, aged 84. It was only about a year after his death that the first allegations about him being a paedophile were broadcast in that ITV documentary. The police then received more information. They began to investigate, and in total they received 450 allegations. At the end of last year, 214 of those were defined as crimes, including 32 of rape over 5 decades. So today's report by the HMIC, the police watchdog, was commissioned by the Home Secretary and was really an attempt to find out just how much the police knew about Savile before he was exposed as a sex offender last year. And it says that the police forces up and down the country failed to join the dots and missed opportunities to apprehend Savile. They failed to understand the extent of his offending and mishandled complaints and intelligence.
So what were some of the missed opportunities to catch Savile highlighted by the report?
Well, there are 5 reports made to the police about Savile prior to his death and 2 pieces of intelligence, all of which the HMIC investigation says were mishandled in different ways. The earliest known complaint was actually in Cheshire in 1963 when a male victim reported to Cheshire police that he had been raped by Savile, and according to the report today, an officer simply told the victim to forget about it. The man was one of 8 people who tried to report Savile but failed to get their police force involved to do anything about their allegations. Other victims contacted Merseyside Police, West Yorkshire Police, the Met and the Royal Ulster Constabulary. In 1964, intelligence about Savile was entered into a ledger used by the Met's paedophile unit in London, and it said that the DJ had visited an address used by girls who had absconded from Duncroft Approved School in Surrey, but there was no record of any investigation by the police. And the Met also received detailed but anonymous allegations about Savile's behaviour and methods in a letter sent to the Met in 1998.
The report worryingly warns that the same opportunities could be missed again today.
Ian, I think this is one of the most stark aspects of this report. It warns that failures to share intelligence between police forces about prolific offenders could well see something like this happening again. In 2007, officers with Sussex and Surrey Police, separate police officers, realised they were both investigating Savile separately after receiving bits of information. And the HMIC report today says both officers appear to have alerted each other to the reluctance of their respective victims to take their allegations to court, and both decided that neither was able to support the other. As a result, opportunities for mutual investigation support were lost, it says. And the watchdog also says that police have systems and processes in place to enable forces to join the dots and spot patterns of offending, but these have either not been used correctly or simply not used at all.
What's been the reaction to this report, Simon?
I guess, Ian, if you can be shocked anymore about the allegations involving Savile, then shock is a natural reaction to this. Just how many opportunities there were for the police and how many were missed. The Chief Constable, Mike Barton, speaks on intelligence for the Association of Chief Police Officers, ACPO, and he says, yes, we have a national intelligence system which is capable of being used by any trained officer in the UK to identify suspects, offenders and patterns of behaviour. But he says the review has highlighted that the Police National Database currently has limitations, and these will need to be addressed over a period of time rather than immediately, and will require extra funding. The Home Secretary Theresa May says that while we can never right the wrongs that have happened, we must learn the lessons to prevent the same thing from ever happening again. And she says she's ordered work to ensure that the interests of victims are prioritised and the specific vulnerabilities of children involved in allegations are recognised and addressed.
Simon, thank you very much.
Call 08459 455 555.
08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, constantly say, if you've got something you think we should be talking about on this show, you can send me an email, ian.lee@bbc.co.uk. Iain. I spell it the correct way. Scottish heritage, you see. iain.lee@bbc.co.uk. And if you've got a story that you think we should be happening, a big one, a small one, some as big as your head, then email me and let me know. Or you can phone up during the show. This is your Three Counties. You can talk about what you like. Well, Barbara in Hemel Hempstead has called in. Barbara, what on earth have you called in about?
Hello, Ian.
Hello, Barbara.
I booked a hotel, which I saw on my iPad, through an agency. I got down to the hotel to find that they never had a reservation for me. It was a pub, not a hotel. Then I went to bed, and the next morning I thought I was going to have a continental breakfast.
So you stayed in the pub?
I stayed in the pub.
Okay, yeah.
I was a bit dubious about it, but I stayed there. I had to go to a birthday party, and I booked for 4 days. She tried to get me somewhere else, but they were all full up, so I had to stay there. I went to bed, and I got up the next morning, and I thought, great, I'll go down and get some breakfast. Went downstairs to find locks on the doors, great big locks that I couldn't get into the bar area. I didn't know how to get out of the hotel. I was stuck there. I walked all the way around the hotel, looked at all the doors. Everywhere was empty. I seemed to be in there on my own. I started to panic because there wasn't anyone there. There was no phone in the room. There was no instructions. Luckily, which I don't always, I took my mobile with me. So I rang the police, and the police said, well, it's not really an emergency, we're doing all the roads. So
well, hang on a minute. Surely a lady locked in a pub on her own is more of an emergency than the roads?
Yeah, well, apparently to them it wasn't.
Dear.
Anyway, they said they would try and send somebody down in the next couple of hours. So anyway, I stayed in my room and panicking. I rang my daughter. I said, it's no good, I can't stay here. Can you come and get me? I'm locked in the pub. So she left work and she said, yes, I'll be on my way. She came down. This was at Worthing. Anyway, about an hour later, I saw a police lady walking round, and she see me at the window, and she said, open your window, and I'm shouting to her out the window, trying to. She said, where's the door? I said, I don't know. I don't know how to get out.
Was there no one? There was no one in the pub?
No.
Right.
There was no one. By this time, I was shaking to pieces. I mean, you've got to laugh now.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. And then about a quarter of an hour later, she came up the stairs with what I understand was the owner. He didn't know I was in there.
What?
He hadn't been told, apparently. There was a little young cleaner, little girl, that was there with them. Yeah. And the policewoman was saying, well, why haven't you answered me? And he said she wasn't in here on her own. The chef was here. Huh? And I never saw the chef. And she said, well, why didn't you answer me? And right next door to the pub was a great big load of building going on with 2 great big cranes and lots of workmen. He said, well, I didn't hear. I didn't hear you.
Barbara, did this actually happen, or is this a dream you had last night?
No, I've been there I went there on Sunday and come home yesterday.
So this happened at the weekend?
Yes.
So did you manage to? Well, obviously you got out eventually.
Oh yes, yes.
What happened at the end? Did you get your? Did they give you your money back? Did you go and stay somewhere else?
They didn't charge me, but I didn't have any breakfast. I didn't have anything to eat from the day before. So the owner just said he was sorry.
Yeah.
He didn't know that I was there. And my daughter turned up. I said, I'll stay in my room now until my daughter turns up to take me home. So I've had to come home, miss my aunt's 100th birthday party.
Oh, Barbara.
Yeah, all because of that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. How are you feeling now, my dear? You feeling a bit better, a bit calmer about it?
I feel sick.
Really?
But, and when you look up, I mean, when I tapped in hotels, came up as a hotel, and the agency that booked the hotel, they've had trouble with it before.
Have you got any money back or anything?
No, because...
Barbara, listen, we're running out of time. Would you mind if I passed your details on to Jonathan Vernon Smith?
Yeah.
Because he might look at this in his consumer hour. He might not, but it's the kind of thing he might have a little look at and might be able to sort something out.
Well, somebody ought to know about it because they've had trouble with them before.
Oh, blimey. Well, they do. Barbara, listen, I appreciate you coming on and telling us your story. I didn't realise it was this weekend. I wouldn't have laughed if I'd known it had been so recent. We'll pass it on to JVS.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Still looking at problems on the M25 at the moment. Anti-clockwise, we have delays between 21 at the M1 and 15 at the M4. Going to take you over an hour to get through that stretch, I'm afraid. Callers are reporting there that a broken down taxi is blocking the outside lane. Now, southbound on the M1, also slow between 15 at Northampton and the Newport Pagnell services. And London bound on the M40, also very slow between junction 1A and 1 at the Denham roundabout. Fairly slow where you'd expect on the A1 southbound at the Barnet bypass, queuing between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus, and the A10 also busy heading it through Cheshunt at the moment. 45-minute delays on First Capital Connect services on the Bedford to Brighton line following the snow. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. OK, well, Barbara's tragic story there has given me an idea. For the last hour of the show, what have you been locked in? 08459 455. We've all been locked in somewhere. A lift, a toilet, a spooky pub in Worthing. Speak to you after the news with Catherine.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. The headlines: Hightown residents revolt, papal elections begin, and Mega Macaw on the loose in the Three Counties.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
People living and working in an area of Luton blighted by drugs and prostitution have launched a petition to oust councillors they accuse of doing nothing. Residents have complained of obscene behaviour and open drug deals in the streets, but accuse Labour's Andy Malcolm and Roxanne Whittaker of dismissing their concerns. More on this story up next with Iain Lee. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. The Buckinghamshire-based broadcaster denied groping two women in BBC studios when he was arrested as part of the so-called Others investigation in November. He's been taken off air by his current station while the investigation's carried out and is due to answer bail again next month. Police have been criticised for mishandling complaints about sexual assaults by Jimmy Savile on several occasions spanning 50 years. A review by Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary found a number of police forces had heard complaints about the presenter, with the first of them an allegation of rape in 1963, but they never investigated or shared the information. The report said officers failed to join the dots to see a pattern emerging. Drusilla Sharpling from HMIC says that because of inconsistencies in how police apply guidelines, the same failures could happen again.
We know that the systems and operating practices have improved over the years, but still, as we know from the Savile report, mistakes were made when either information was not made available or was rendered inaccessible for anybody looking to find out what may have happened in the past.
A man has been arrested and charged following reports of a handgun in Bedford. No weapon has been found, but police are appealing for information about an incident in Church Lane on Friday afternoon. Roman Catholic cardinals will today begin the process of electing a new pope. The 115 cardinals will each swear an oath of secrecy before shutting themselves away from the world to make their decision. There's a scarlet parrot at large somewhere in the Three Counties. John in Clapham called BBC Three Counties Radio to say he's lost his macaw and he's advising anyone who sees it to proceed with caution. Here he is talking to Iain Lee.
Well, it's called Charlie.
Yeah.
And I've had him for over 30 years, and I had a pair of them, and his missus died last year.
Ah.
So he's tame but nervous, and obviously he wouldn't harm anybody, but if somebody approached him and, he got frightened, he'd give him a nasty nip.
In sport, England locks Joe Launchbury and Jeff Parling should both be fit to face Wales in the deciding match of the Six Nations on Saturday. Saracens fly half Owen Farrell will also train this week and could play some part, although number 8 Ben Morgan is still injured. The weather, cloudy with the risk of light snow and a top temperature of 4 degrees Celsius, that's 39 degrees Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/Three Counties. BBC Three Counties Radio. First for news.
Ever been locked in anywhere, Kath?
Always.
Thank you, Catherine. We are discussing this morning after Barbara's call. If you missed it just before 8 o'clock, it really was... we were chuckling. I was chuckling because I thought it happened like about 3 years ago. I didn't realise it happened at the weekend. And she was still upset about it. What have you been locked in? She was locked in a pub. No, not the good kind of lock-in. She was locked in and in the morning couldn't get out. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Other things between now and 9 o'clock. Residents in Hightown are trying to get rid of the councillors that represent their area. They're unhappy with their handling of the crime and prostitution. We'll talk about that more in a second. We're also discussing the EU. They're going to vote later today whether to ban pornography. What do you think? Good idea? Or terrible? And the perfect relationship is when the man is 4 years, 4 months older than the lady. Do you agree? Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Lots of big age gaps on Facebook. There would be, wouldn't there? It's the internet. You can text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Or, look, all the lines are free. You can give us a call. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, it's a story we've been following very closely here on Three Counties. Crime and antisocial behaviour in the Hightown area of Luton. Horrible stories of prostitutes having sex in people's doorways and rubbish chutes, open drug dealing in car parks, and local female residents being harassed by men who think that they are street girls. Well, it seems that residents and local businesses feel they have been badly let down by their councillors and have taken matters into their own hands. On Friday evening, they launched an official petition for a vote of no confidence in the 2 local councillors who represent Hightown, Roxana Whitaker and Andy Malcolm, and they've already gained nearly 300 signatures in 3 days. Well, the 2 councillors came on the show a couple of months ago, and I spoke to them. I found their attitude a little bit frustrating. What I have to say now is that there's a reference in this, and they were kind of sort of pulling away from the mic and laughing during the thing. This is what I make a point of this in this little clip of the interview I'm going to play. And they kind of were like smiling at each other and were surprised when I picked up on it.
You've got to take an approach which actually solves the problem over a long-term period.
Right. I don't want a prostitute having sex up against my door or in my rubbish chute. So what are you going to do about that?
Well, so on the rubbish chutes, that is something the council can do something. So lots of these are police issues, but there are some council
so what are you going to do about that?
So with regards to rubbish chutes, we have got bin men now with keys, and they should be able to lock them, and that's only something that has recently come about. So we're still in the process of getting that into a situation that's actually working, because at the moment some of them are sometimes being left open, and obviously we're still talking to people about that. Well, it should be working from now.
Right.
But there are always going to be people who forget to do things that they're meant to do.
You can understand why people are upset about this.
I'm sure you forget to do things in your job.
I would not forget to lock a chute if I knew that there were prostitutes having sex in it and it was upsetting the local residents. I wouldn't forget that, no.
It's not part of your job, though, is it? So what I would say is we are talking to the council.
I don't know why you're finding this funny, because the residents aren't finding this funny.
I'm not finding this funny.
But you're making slightly flippant comments about it, and the residents are have a listen. This is what the residents said about the council.
I've spoken to Roxanne. It took quite a long time for her to actually get to see me. I spoke to her, and she mentioned that, that she's having talks with the police. It was just after that, when I spoke to a few other people, I found out that these councillors, so-called councillors, MPs, actually run some sort of organisation which gives these street workers a place where they can come and eat and clean and food, and sort of, I feel encourages them. And I was disgusted with that.
They just see me as I think, an eccentric thorn in their side. And in my view, they do not care, really. Well, I wouldn't say don't care, but they're not really interested in what goes on with us who have to live with the vice that they are so keen to help.
And we do feel like prisoners. And we don't feel like the police or the council care about us having to be prisoners.
Strong words.
Yeah, very strong words.
We've been around for 18 months and we're doing everything that we can to change it. And we can't do anything about what's happened in the past, but we can do our best to work for the residents now.
With a slow, long-term plan.
There is no quick answer to this. We want a sustainable solution.
Now, I've got to say that we have asked the two of them to come on the show, and they have both refused. And in their defence, I feel I should put forward their defence, they were adamant when they came in that they were doing everything within their powers to make Hightown more respectable. They kind of like a long-term, slow-burn plan. Well, our reporter this morning, Justin Dealey, is out in Hightown. Justin, whereabouts are you exactly, and who are you with?
Well, I'm with Shahzad at the moment, who runs a local convenience store here. This is where the petition is, Ian. Now, since Friday, when that petition has been live, nearly 300 signatures already. They feel like something has got to be done. It's been going on for far too long. Shahzad, you're running this local convenience store here. For anybody who's never heard of Hightown, doesn't know what it is, can you describe what it's like living here day by day?
Well, if people know what living in hell is like, then they'll best describe it. It's worse than that. You're always living in fear of what's going to happen. Assaults, verbal assaults, physical assaults. You're always afraid you don't know what you're going to find on the street, whether it's used condoms, needles, and that's just half of the story, that is.
So you're telling me every single day, you open the shop this morning at 8 o'clock, you are living in fear every single day of your life. That's what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. We feel that we've got no safety, no one to turn to at all. The councillors, the police, every day they just get away with it. The prostitutes, the street workers, they get away with everything. But law-abiding citizens who are trying to earn a living, we have to live in fear all the time. It's like a war zone out there.
So you've been abused here in this shop?
I've lost the number of times, lost count. How many times? Just the latest in this incident was last night. And when I called it in to the police operator heard the abuse I was getting from the prostitute from within the shop. She heard it on the phone, and I said, this woman is banned. And I was told that there's nothing they can do, even if she's banned. That's a civil matter.
I mean, how does that make you feel? Because if you're phoning with a genuine concern, and they can hear that as well, and nothing's being done, how does that make you feel? It must be so frustrating.
Frustrating's, not the word. I really am annoyed. I think the council are waiting for another Ipswich because, they're making things happen out there themselves. They are encouraging it by what the councillors in this area are doing, by encouraging the girls to come to Hightown. They look after them. So the girls, the prostitutes don't need to go anywhere else. I think, our councillors in this area have a lot to answer for.
There's so much I want to ask you. We haven't got too long with you, but Roxanna Whittaker and Andy Malcolm, the two local councillors, they are refusing to come on the programme this morning. What is your message to them? Because I guarantee you they will be listening to this.
Well, I think that they are legal pimps, that they encourage this sort of behaviour on our doorsteps, and that
Just to stop you there. Why do they encourage it?
Well, the organisation they run supports these women on the streets and looks after them, and they are supposed to be vulnerable people. These are people who are in power in the council, which should be doing things to help the residents, the voters, the electorate, but on the other hand, they are sympathising with the vice problem.
Let me just say again, they are not here to defend themselves. Again, that offer for them to come on the programme this morning, live with Iain, is still there if they want to defend themselves on what you're saying here. But you want them out. Enough is enough. You want change here.
Exactly that. That's it. It's time they went. They've got to go and let somebody who knows what they're doing come along and sort out this war, this hell.
Is it really that bad? It's really that bad.
It is really that bad. I mean, I can still stand here.
Okay, we Justin, we seem to have lost the signal there. I don't quite know what was going on, but I think we got the thrust. I have to just step in, of course, and say that Roxana and Andy were asked to come on the show, and they declined, as did everyone at Luton Borough Council. Apparently, because of an election in one ward, they can't come on to the show. I'm not quite sure if that's right, but that's what they're saying. And in defence of Roxana and Andy, they would, of course, I would imagine, I don't know, say that they're not in any way acting as pimps and promoting prostitution. And if I remember correctly, their aim was to get the working girls off the streets, but over a longer period, as opposed to punishing them by fining them and chucking them in prison. Theirs was kind of a long-term plan that they had. Over there, that's Justin. He's one of our reporters. That's the wrong thing. I'm trying to be all slick. Let's try this.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC
There we go.
Three Counties Radio.
Never try and be too slick, Lee. It don't work for you. Don't work. So Barbara phoned up before 8 o'clock. She went to stay in a hotel in Worthing. Turned out it wasn't a hotel. It was a pub. They put her up for the night, but then they locked her in. What have you been locked in, dear listener? 08459 455 555. Colin's in Dunstable. Good morning, Colin.
Good morning.
Colin, what have you been locked in?
A padded psychiatric cell.
Oh, my goodness gracious me. What happened?
Well, many, many years ago, we're talking 30-odd years ago now,
yes,
if not more,
yes.
I was working in a hospital laboratory, and we were looking for new premises within the hospital to move to. And it was suggested that we had a look at the old psychiatric unit, which was now not being used. So my boss and I went round to look at it, and we found a block of these old padded cells.
Wow.
All leather. You couldn't see the door inside. And my boss said, how would you like to be locked in for a little while? So I said, it'll be interesting.
Be a bit of fun.
Yeah, and it was absolutely amazing. Obviously, he let me out after 4 or 5 minutes.
Oh, I was going to say 4 or 5 days.
No.
Why was it so interesting, Colin?
Well, just to see, it was Victorian.
Oh, dear, yeah, very old-fashioned.
It was dark. There was only one small light bulb, sort of about 40 watt.
Bit creepy, I'd imagine, Colin. Was it a bit creepy?
Well, I'm not fazed by anything like that. It was an interesting experience.
Well, there we go, Colin. Thank you very much. I wasn't expecting that. What have you been locked in, dear listener? We've had Barbara locked in a pub, and Colin was locked in a padded cell. That's not the right thing. Here we go. Let's see if we can do it this way. I don't know what's going on with my fat fingers, dear listener. Here's the travel news with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M1, looking heavy at the moment between junction 15A at Northampton services and the Newport Pagnell services as well. And also busy at the moment on the A505. That's the Upper Tilehouse Street heading west through Hitchin. We have reports of a shed load there between the Rotten Road west at Hitchin and Mount Grace Road as well. And now southbound on the A1, still slow between the St Neots Junction and the Black Cat roundabout. And the Barnet bypass also queuing at the moment between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus. Usual delays are still causing problems there, I'm afraid. And also the A10 heading through Cheshunt southbound is still slow between Brookfield Lane West and Winston Churchill Way. Everything else not looking too bad at the moment. We do have delays of 45 minutes though on First Capital Connect services between Bedford and Brighton following the snow, and 30-minute delays on Greater Anglia between Liverpool Street and Hertford East as well, so do check before you travel. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Morning, it's 8:16. It's Tuesday the 12th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. A group of Luton residents have launched a campaign to oust their local councillors, accusing them of deliberately ignoring the area's drug and prostitution problem. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. In sport, England locks Joe Launchbury and Jeff Parling should both be fit to face Wales in the deciding match of the Six Nations on Saturday. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks cloudy with the risk of a few outbreaks of light snow. Top temperature 4 degrees. Coming up before 8:30, those darned Europeans, they want to ban our pornography. We'll discuss that and more before 8:30.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday from 3, Roberto Perrone with the best local news stories.
There's a sporting story emerging. Paul Buckle has left Luton Town Football Club by mutual consent.
The owners of the Centre MK have withdrawn a part of an application regarding the Primark development.
Local talking points.
The Hertfordshire Police and Crime Commissioner, Mr David Lloyd, has a plan to get sponsorship for police cars.
The best local travel.
There's been another day of disruption on the Thameslink line today.
We were evacuating from the train and we had to go back to Ratchet, and now we're waiting for the bus.
Roberto Perrone, every weekday from 3 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Yeah. Jonathan Vernon-Smith is here with me. Good morning, Jonathan.
You've got a kind of...
Oh, you look... Yes. Hello.
You've got a kind of jacket on.
I'm making more of an effort. I bought some new shirts the other day. I'm not wearing one now, but I bought them. They're in a box at home.
Oh.
Making an effort to... look smart.
You look very nice.
May God bless you and everybody associated with you. I don't know if you heard earlier on in the show...
It's a weird thing to say. I've never heard anyone say that before. God bless me and everyone associated with me.
It's a nice thing to say,
it's
though, isn't
very
it?
nice.
I'm not saying a pox on you and your family.
No.
I'm not putting a pox on you, for goodness sakes. I could do. I know how to.
No.
We had Barbara. I don't know if you heard Barbara calling in.
Yes.
She went to a hotel in Worthing, except it wasn't a hotel, it was a pub, and they locked her in. And I sent her to you. I said, phone up Jonathan on the Consumer Hour.
Thanks, Dad.
Because those are the kind of fruit... That's the kind of story that you deal with, isn't it?
Well, I deal with all kinds of consumer problems.
What advice would you give to a 74-year-old woman who'd been locked in a pub overnight?
So she was locked in there overnight?
Yep.
Did this cause her any problem?
She's distressed.
She's distressed?
Yeah, she's distressed.
Well, what does she want? I mean, I don't do compensation.
No.
That's what you're talking about. So I'm not getting a compensation. What does she want?
Well, I mean,
I can't wind the clock back and get her out of that room, can I? So, I can get her an apology, but I'm not getting her money. I don't do that.
She just probably wants a friendlier attitude from her radio presenter, which is what she got from me.
Right.
By the way, we're phoning up a council today to try and get a street lamp switched off.
So I've noticed.
Yeah, that's kind of what we do on this show. With a new Jonathan Vernon-Smith. And right. I have never shot a deer.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here he comes. Move to him. Stay with him. Thanks.
It's a deer.
Look at it!
A baby deer.
That was not a deer.
That was a baby deer.
It was a clay pigeon.
Come on.
You feeling good? You hit it?
I'm feeling really butch.
You shot a baby deer.
I did not shoot a baby. I've never shot anything live in my life.
Unbelievable. Those clay pigeons have got feelings, Jonathan. They've got feelings, haven't they? What's on your show this morning?
Coming up on the big phone in today, is prison the right punishment for Huhne and Price? The former Cabinet Minister Chris Huhne is waking up in a prison cell for the first time this morning after being sentenced to 8 months for perverting the course of justice. His ex-wife Vicky Price has also been jailed for accepting his speeding penalty points 10 years ago when they were still married. He's in Wandsworth. She's in Holloway. Apparently.
She would be. It's a ladies' prison.
The pair of them are in prison. Well, it's been a huge fall for both people who, between them, had certainly held positions of power and influence. But based on what they've done, is prison the right place for them? Do you think the punishment that they have had is absolutely the right punishment? Does it send out a clear message to everyone else, you can't do what they did? Or do you think it's a terrible overreaction and they've really been used as scapegoats, and they would have been far better off being made to go around in orange overalls picking up litter from town centres as their punishment? From 9, I want to hear from you. I tweeted last night whether my listeners felt that it was an overreaction. No one had any sympathy with them whatsoever on Twitter.
Yeah, there's lots of people are revelling in their misery.
Yes, and the camera in Chris Huhne's face...
Yep.
Is it perhaps a little bit over the top? We're going to discuss this from 9 this morning, and I want to hear your views. Is prison the right punishment for Huhne and Price?
08459 455 555.
This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. If you want to give Jonathan now a call, now's an excellent time. 08459 455 555. Or you can send him a cheeky email, jvsshow@bbc.co.uk. Now, the EU will vote later today to decide whether to ban pornography. Critics of the bill, which aims to promote equality in society, say it could end up with books like 50 Shades of Grey being banned. Well, maybe some good will come out of it then. Well, Nikki Hodgson is a journalist specialising in sex and the law, and thinks this is going way too far. Good morning, Nikki.
Morning, Ian.
And also we've got Mary Honeyball, who is a Labour MEP and sits on the Women's Rights Committee at the European Parliament. Morning, Mary.
Good morning, Ian.
Mary, do you support the ban?
I don't, actually, and it is only an amendment to the report.
Right.
So it will be voted on today at lunchtime, around about 12 o'clock or so, and I will not be voting for an outright ban, and I think most of my colleagues in the Labour Party will be taking the same line. I think we'll all be taking the same line, in fact.
Should there be tighter controls, though, Mary?
I think there should, and I'm not saying I don't agree with regulation at all. Of course, the worst things are already criminal offences. It is a criminal offence to use abusive sexual images of children online, for instance. But I think we need to think very hard about this, because there's a lot of evidence to show that pornography does have a very severe impact on young people in a not very healthy way in their attitudes to sex and relationships. So I think we do need to consider these issues, but I really don't think an outright ban is the way forward.
Nikki, Mary makes a good point, doesn't she? That too much pornography, or some of the various strands that I've heard of, can lead to a perversion of what people might think is right and appropriate in a relationship.
I think that is a really good point, but I think the main issue here is that neither porn nor media are defined in the context of this bill. So we don't know what the definition of pornography is, and there is a lot of porn out there which doesn't perpetuate gender stereotypes of men or women. There's certainly a new movement to produce a different kind of strand of pornography, and for example, I've written an erotic memoir. Probably under the context of this bill, I would be censored for that. We really need to look at the evidence. There are lots of reports on both sides of the argument, actually. We're not just looking at legislation that can, stop people from viewing porn because it's bad for them. There are lots of reports out there that are challenging that notion, because there are different attitudes to pornography proliferating and the different kinds of porn available. So it's definitely true that what we have is a problem with regulating porn. I've been talking to people in the adult industry that would be potentially interested in coming up with some kind of ethical porn stamp, for example, working with politicians and the government to come up with a set of guidelines that would ensure that the production of the porn they were producing was safe, and then it would be up to people as a matter of exercising their civil liberties to view the material or not to view the material.
Nikki, what's actually being proposed today? If this bill went through, would I, for example, be able to pop into my local petrol station and buy a mucky magazine from the top shelf? Would everything be banned?
Well, in theory, yeah.
Can I just say something here?
Of course you can.
It's not actually a bill in the sense that we would understand a bill in the House of Commons. It's actually it's more like a private member's bill.
Right.
It's not legislative. So whatever happens with this report, it's not going to lead immediately to legislation. It could be a precursor of something coming forward later. But I think we need to be a bit clear about the terms of this debate.
Lovely.
This is actually what we call an own initiative report in the European Parliament, and I also do agree with with Nikki that we need to look at definitions much more clearly. This report is very vague, and it doesn't define what it means by porn, and I completely agree with Nikki that we do need to have much more clarity about these issues.
Nikki, does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense, and I completely agree with Mary. The other thing that I would say is that this proposal is also to do with tackling gender stereotypes, primarily. So some of the suggestions in there are really good. They're to do with stopping women feeling that they can't enter traditionally male occupations. They're to do with tackling how fathers look after children. And the report also pinpoints advertising as a main problem for perpetuating gender stereotypes. But the other thing that it does is that it doesn't mention anyway the transgender community. It doesn't mention stereotypes to do with sexual orientation. And I think if it's really concerned with solving those issues, and it needs to mention those. And the problem is that the porn issue has become a bit of a side note, and all the media are focusing on that. Obviously, we're having a debate about it now, but that should probably be dealt with in something completely separate.
Mary, the vote is the vote today?
The vote's today.
And are many people, you say that you and a lot of your other Labour MEPs won't be voting. Will many people be voting for it?
Well, it's not a question of the whole report. It's these amendments to do with banning pornography altogether, which we won't be supporting, I think, for reasons I've explained.
Yes.
I mean, it's a sledgehammer to crack a nut, to be honest, and it isn't right. I mean, I don't think any reasonable person would think you ought to ban something altogether just because there are bits of it you don't like. I think what we need to do is use this as more of a platform for a debate, so we can actually come up with some sensible way of dealing with pornography. I mean, I like Nikki's idea of an ethical stamp, and I do think there is a responsibility on the part of those who publish pornographic issues and put them up on the internet for voluntary controls. And I'd certainly like to explore a sort of code of conduct idea. Maybe we could call it an ethical stamp before we go down the route of banning things altogether.
Thank you very much, Mary Honeyball, Labour MEP, sits on the Women's Rights Committee at the European Parliament, and Nikki Hodgson, a journalist and author who writes, rather naughty books, I think we can say quite safely. Right, let's get the travel news now. Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Heading west on the A505 through Hitchin on Upper Tilehouse Street, we do have reports still of a shed load just between the B655, that's Purton Road, and between Mount Grace Road as well. Now the A120, that's Stortford Road, heading west through Standon, is still looking very slow as well around the High Street, and the A405 North Orbital Road also still busy approaching the M25 junction 21A roundabout. Now anti-clockwise on the M25, still slow at the moment between 21 at the M1 and 15 at the M4. Going to take you over an hour to get through that stretch, and delays of 45 minutes as well on First Capital Connect services on the Bedford to Brighton line as following the snow, and on Greater Anglia as well, delays of 30 minutes between Liverpool Street and Hertford East and Bishop Stortford as well, following obstruction on the line at Tottenham Hale. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sophie, is everything all right? You're sounding a little huskier than normal.
I've just got a very sore throat.
Why was that? Were you up to anything at the weekend?
No, not really. But it was quite quiet.
Just quiet boozing. Yeah?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Let's get the news now with Catherine Boyle.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 8:30. The headlines. A group of Luton residents have launched a campaign to oust their local councillors, accusing them of deliberately ignoring the area's drug and prostitution problem. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the third time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. And police have been criticised for mishandling complaints about sexual assaults by Jimmy Savile on several occasions spanning 50 years.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
In League One tonight, MK Dons play Shrewsbury at the Stadium MK, with Dons still in with a chance of making the playoffs. Striker Ryan Lowe hasn't scored for the club since the 4-2 FA Cup win at QPR in January, but he isn't concerned about his personal form.
Everything gets put on a back burner now. You target yourself, you try and reach your own achievements. They've all been put on the back burner, and that's not just me, that's every single player in a football club. That's what I see anyway, especially in our squad. That we just need to pick up points, whatever way they come, but we're more than happy.
Also in League One, Stevenage are at home to Bournemouth. Borough will want to hit back after their disappointing defeat on Saturday. In League Two, Wycombe Wanderers are at home to Rotherham. The Chairboys lost on Saturday, and Gareth Ainsworth admits he already has one eye on next season.
It's been a big season for us, and next season hopefully we can kick on and do better. But this season's all about survival. I still want to finish top half. I'd love to finish top half. I still think we can do that.
Luton Town have Wayne Thomas back from suspension for tonight's conference match against Hyde, although he's likely to be on the bench. Scott Rendell may miss out after injury, which could see a first start for Alex Wall. In rugby, England locks Joe Launchbury and Jeff Parling should both be fit to face Wales in the deciding match of the Six Nations on Saturday. Saracens fly half Owen Farrell will also train this week and could play some part, although number 8 Ben Morgan's still injured. Finally, tennis. Roger Federer is through to the fourth round of the Indian Wells tennis after straight sets win over Ivan Dodic. Rafael Nadal's opponent Leonardo Mayer pulled out of their match with a back injury. Nadal will play Ernest Gulbis in the next round. And that's your latest news and sport. More from me at 9 o'clock.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, here every weekday between 6 and 9 o'clock. Coming up in the last 30 minutes of the show, we talk more about age gaps and also cheap flights. Oh, interesting, you say? Yeah, it could be. Now, earlier on in the show, we were discussing the fact that several residents in Hightown, in fact more than several, about around 300 people, have signed what do you call it? A petition, that's it. Ah, dear, it's been a long week so far. I've signed a petition saying they have no faith in their local councillors, or two of their local councillors, and they want to see them gone. Well, Dave is in Luton. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Ian.
Dave, you've heard this story. What do you take on it? What's your take on it?
Well, I've heard it today, and I've heard it for the last, 6 months, maybe more. What the people of the residents of Hightown want to do is to stop paying their council tax, even their rent, because you'll soon have the council and the other people coming up there to find out exactly what's going on. You know, you can't just have one person stopping. You've got to have them all up there. Well, not pay a little bit for the fire service. But if the police are not interested, if the council's not interested, or councillors, then don't pay your council tax.
Yeah,
they'll soon come running up there, mate. If you've got 300 people up there, because they can't push them all into courts, can they?
Well, yeah, they can. You won't get the councillors. You won't get the councillors coming knocking on the door. You'll get the bailiffs coming knocking on your door.
No. You've got the right to go to a court first. Right. The reasons why you haven't paid your council tax. That court is a court of justice. That court has got to listen to your case, not for the council, not for the councillors or for the police. They've got to listen to your case, the reasons why.
Okay.
And they've got a very, very genuine reason, haven't they?
Well, in their opinion, they have. Let's play devil's advocate for a second. Their opinion they have, because they're saying that these councillors aren't doing enough for their area. But the councillors would argue, and have argued on this show, that they are... Is that the parrot? What was that? I heard a parrot.
I'm out in the garden here.
Is it a giant parrot?
No, it's a dirty, great big raven.
Oh, for goodness sakes. Have you seen a parrot?
You've got me looking up in the air here all the time now.
Oh, I thought that was it for a second. What a lovely way to we would have ended the show 25 minutes early if you'd have found the parrot.
No, if it comes over, I'll let you know.
Please do. Don't shoot it.
But,
now, David...
regarding the councillors,
yes,
Ian...
Yes.
All right. But it's the council. The council should be investigating. The police, more so, because it's a criminal offence, what they're committing up there. Yeah. And these people have got to put up with it. I wouldn't pay the council tax.
You'd end up in prison, though, Dave.
No, you wouldn't, because you've got the right to go to a court.
OK, but then the court would say, pay your council tax or go to prison.
No. The count. Is this what the judge would say? Well, the courts would say, because they'll turn around and say, well, then you say to the court, all right, you live up there. You see what's going on and see if you would do the same.
But David, I understand exactly what you're saying, and of course, it is kind of, if you're unhappy with the service, don't pay for it. But, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. You can't say to the magistrate, you go and live in Hightown for a month, and see, because the magistrate's going to go, no, pay your council tax or go to prison.
No, but then, so in other words, you can commit any crime up Hightown Road then, because the courts have got to take no notice. They're more interested in the council getting their council tax.
Well, I would suggest that they are more interested in the council getting the council.
Well,
it's that blooming bird again.
No wonder they people saying in this country, passing now, that the justice system in this country is an ass.
Well, Dave, listen, thank you very much. You can't not pay your council tax because of that, really. I mean, again, the council would, I'm sure, say that they are looking at the crime and they are doing their best to counter it, but they're perhaps doing a slightly slower, long-term plan. I don't know. What do you think? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. We've been talking about age gap relationships as well. There's a thing in the newspaper today that says the perfect age gap is if the gentleman is 4 years, 4 months older than the lady. I can kind of go with that. Much bigger than that, I'm not really convinced it works, to be honest. 10 years and over, I think, is pretty weird. Lots of you have been commenting on the Facebook page. We'll get to those comments shortly. Don't worry, you've been having your say. I will read as many of those out before the end of the show as I can. Now, it used to be that we referred to some airlines as low-cost carriers and others as legacy airlines. Did we? I've never heard the phrase legacy airlines before. Well, we expect the low-cost airlines to offer cheaper flights with fewer thrills. Frills. Who writes this stuff? Well, the cost of the more expensive flights has fallen by nearly a third in the last 6 years. Our reporter, Philip Hampshire, can maybe fill in some details. Morning, Philip.
Good morning.
Is this a case of the low-cost airlines becoming more expensive with those tiny little charges they add on for luggage and bits and pieces like that? Or have the big boys become cheaper?
Well, actually, if you like, it's a mixture of the two. We've got the low-cost carriers have experienced the same kind of difficulties that many different companies out there have, rising fuel costs being a very big portion of any airline's cost base. So as fuel prices have gone up, they haven't been quite so good as the legacy or national carriers or flag carriers, or however you wish to describe some of the older, more established airlines. They haven't been as good at keeping those fuel costs down. Now, at the same time, one of the reasons that those older airlines are referred to as legacy carriers is because they carry with them a great legacy of pensions costs, of costs associated with the terms and conditions that they gave their workers. And so by managing to whittle those down over the last 6 years, the gap between the two has shrunk by a third. And that means that there's going to be more competition there with regards to price.
So what do the budget airlines do to compete then? Can they cut their costs any more or offer a better service?
Well, there are people far more intelligent than me who are paid full-time over at those airlines to try and figure out different ways that they can reduce the weight of their aircraft and thereby, if you like, use just a little bit less fuel to get from one place to another and thereby cut their costs. But this is exactly what you would expect to happen. We know that when those airlines came out, they took a chunk of the market away from some of the older, more established airlines. And so, therefore, you would expect to see adaptation as they begin to converge together. So the summary of the report from KPMG is that while the gap hasn't completely gone away, it's only narrowed by a third, it's still going to narrow a little bit further in the coming years. And so that actually the distinction that we have in our minds between low-cost carriers and historic carriers will at some stage perhaps disappear.
Philip, thank you very much.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
So let's have a look at some of your comments on Facebook, shall we? About if we don't read them out on the radio, they all get looked at and read. So don't panic. 4 years, 4 months is the ideal age gap in a relationship, with the gentleman being slightly older. My wife is 5 years younger than me, I think. Something like that. I don't really looked into it, to be honest, in much detail. I think 10 years or over as an age gap, that's weird, isn't it? That can't sustain itself. We've had a couple of exceptions, but really there's something odd. Satine Moulin. Oh, there's a name, Satine Moulin. Says too much emphasis is put on a number. It's about emotional maturity, in my opinion. My partner is younger than me, and we are together because we get on well. Yeah, people say age is just a number. Well, yeah, but it's the number of how old you are. So it's quite a significant number. Jane Johnson. I want someone who remembers Marty Wilde, not his daughter Kim. See, that's good. Josephine Reed, I don't think age gap's a problem, but if my 20-year-old daughter or son wanted to marry a 40 or 45-year-old, I think I would try to stop it. But if my 45-year-old son married a 60-year-old, I probably wouldn't have a problem. I think for me, because I would still see them so young. A 45-year-old marrying a 20-year-old. I'll say it. That's not right. That's not right. It's not right in the slightest. That's not right, is it, Trevor from Stevenage?
How are we doing then? You're right.
Yeah, I'm good. If a 45-year-old person marries a 20-year-old person, that's not right, is it?
It's a bit weird, but I mean, there's 10 years difference between me and the wife, but yeah, that's a bit strange.
Well, you say strange. Who's the eldest?
I am.
Okay, so ages, please. How old are you?
46.
Hang on, let me get my calculator. Hang on a second. So she's 36?
Yeah.
Wowzers. And how old was she when you met?
26.
Oh, you see, that's pushing it a bit, Trevor.
Oh, 26, 36.
Yeah, I know. What did anyone say anything? Did any of your friends or your parents or anyone go, "Oh, Trevor, that's a bit weird"?
My mum was a bit funny because she thought she was about 18. She only looked about 18.
Right.
But no, she's 26. But no, I mean, we used the same local for years, but we never actually met each other, which is a bit weird.
Right. So how did you meet each other then?
In the local.
Oh. So you looked over one day and went, "Hey, that girl that's been sat there all the time for the last 10 years, Fwah!
We just sort of knew through friends of friends, but we never met each other before in the pub, which is quite weird.
Well, Trevor, it is quite weird. Trevor from Stevenage, 10-year age gap. That's after that, it starts getting a bit weird, I think. Pete Mann says on Facebook, "There's 20 years between me and my partner. We don't worry what other people think about it. We get on great and love each other. That's all that matters." What's interesting about Pete's post is the first letter of every word is a capital. That must have taken some effort to do that. Azra Kulik says, "I'm 29, my partner is 24. We get on great. Age is nothing but a number." But it's the number of how old you are. It's a significant number. Jackie Edwards, "My husband is 10 years older than me, and the best thing that's ever happened to me. Age has no barriers." Well, it has some. Anthony Wildman, "My wife is 29, I'm 48, I'm very happy." Oh, that's 19 years. I think people that see it as a problem have their own problems and should seek help. Well, do no such thing, Anthony. Get on with your life and let others lead theirs. It has no effect on you. And Scott Peacock says, "I wouldn't mind marrying a woman 10 years younger. I'm 39, and to me, I can't see the problem with it. If you were to marry someone 20, 30 years older, it would be like marrying your mum or your dad. No, that is so wrong. That is wrong. 20 years, 25 years, that's just a bit dodgy bodsky." Here's the travel news with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it looks like the earlier problems we had heading through Hitchin on the A505 have now returned to normal. Shed load has been cleared and it looks like it is beginning to ease up and nicely out there. The A120, though, that's Stortford Road heading west through Standon, is still slow just around the High Street. And the A405 North Orbital Road also still queuing as well, approaching the M25 at junction 21A roundabout. Now, anti-clockwise on the M25, we still have delays of over an hour between 21 at the M1 and 15 at the M4. And on First Capital Connect, delays of 45 minutes between Bedford and Brighton due to the snow, and delays of 30 minutes on Greater Anglia between Liverpool Street and Hertford East, and Liverpool Street and Bishop Stortford as well, all following an obstruction on the line at Tottenham Hale. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. You just managed to keep your voice there till the end, and we appreciate it. Vicky on Facebook says, "I'm 33, my husband is 53. We've been together 10 years this year and married for 3 of those. We're incredibly happy, never argue or fight, and are very supportive of each other's needs. I very strongly believe age is just a number." But yes, Vicky, when he's 73, you're going to be 53. Then you'll be worried about it. Right, it's 8:45. It's Tuesday, the 12th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. A group of Luton residents have launched a campaign to oust their local councillors, accusing them of deliberately ignoring their area's drug and prostitution problem. Former Radio 1 and BBC Three Counties DJ Dave Lee Travis has been bailed for the 3rd time by police investigating sexual offences as part of the Jimmy Savile inquiry. In sport, Cheltenham Racecourse officials remain confident the festival will get underway as scheduled this afternoon after calling an inspection for 10:30. Coming up, as we've just been saying, 4 years, 4 months is the perfect age gap in a relationship if the man is older. That's according to a lot of the papers this morning, so it must be true. We'll get your views before 9am. 08459 455 555. But before that, let's get the weather with Kate Kinsella.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Well, it's certainly bitterly cold, and we're seeing some further snow flurries through the course of the day. In fact, snow showers. The temperature outside at the moment across the three counties ranging between 0 and -3. That's over in High Wycombe, notoriously a cold spot. Most of us, though, going through a bit of a drier spell. Even some brighter spells out there peeking through from the cloud. But further snow showers likely to move across us within the next hour or so, I'd say. Not going to rule them out for the rest of the day, but they shouldn't cause too many problems as the sun will be doing its job and it shouldn't settle too much. But we are looking at a very blustery northeasterly wind, which means temperatures feeling bitterly cold. We're looking at a maximum of 4 Celsius, that's 39 degrees in Fahrenheit, but it will feel much colder than that. Now, overnight tonight, it is looking fairly dry at the moment. Widespread frost expected for most of us, and also some icy patches as well. 1 or 2 isolated snow showers. Can't rule them out, but it's fairly unlikely for most of us. Minimum temperature -228 degrees in Fahrenheit. Now, tomorrow we're starting off fairly dry with some bright spells as well. 1 or 2 wintry showers. The temperature a little less cold tomorrow, so whatever falls from the sky is likely to be more of a wintry mix, some hail and perhaps some sleet mixed in there as well. But the maximum temperature 5 Celsius, 41 degrees in Fahrenheit, and that's your forecast.
Thank you, Kate.
This Friday, join us for a jam-packed night of comic relief, featuring Peter Kay, Miranda, Call the Midwife and Rowan Atkinson.
It's going to be, wait for this, cake. Is that right? Or is it mint?
Plus, MasterChef, Ricky Gervais, Russell Howard and a special performance from One Direction. It's going to be amazing. Comic relief, funny for money.
We're all giving as much as we possibly can.
Are we?
Jim!
This Friday from 7 on BBC One and BBC One HD.
So, as we've been saying all morning, according to the newspapers, so it must be fact. 4 years, 4 months is the perfect age gap in a relationship if it's the bloke that's older. And I kind of go with that. 4 or 5 years, yeah, that kind of works. My wife's 5 years younger than me, and we struggle on some things. She doesn't remember any of the same TV programmes I remember, or any of the same toys or sweets or music or anything like that. In fact, we haven't got very much in common at all. What on earth's going on there? 10 years or more, though, far too much. Won't work. Won't last. Apart from the odd exception, it won't work. 20 years or more, you're a deviant. There's something not quite right about that. Well, earlier on, I spoke to Mike about his age gap relationship. There's 27 years between him and his wife. I asked him how they met.
We actually met some while ago at a casual meeting. I was running a shop in Luton at the time.
Right, OK. And may I ask how old she was at the time?
I'll have to redo the math.
This is the problem, Mike. You're too old to do the maths. She could do the maths immediately, but your brain is starting to fade.
Well, this is a digital age, and I just rely on calculators all the time.
So, when you got together, and 27 is a significant age gap, what did your friends say? Did they say "Whoa," or did they say "Michael"? For goodness' sakes.
To be perfectly honest, in all the time that we've been together,
yeah.
everyone has absolutely praised what we have done. There's never been any comment on age.
Well, Diana Parkinson is a relationship expert. She thinks age gaps can matter, but not always.
I think the whole thing, as you said, are the cultural references that we have do make a difference.
Yeah.
But, if people are happy together, then it's fine. That's what's important.
20 years.
To love and be loved. It can be very difficult, and it's then what roles are you taking on? You know, is it parent-child or what's going on?
Yeah.
But I think it's usually, I don't know, speaking as a woman, it's usually nice to be with a man of a similar age.
Yes.
But I think, there's the whole thing, I suppose, the sexual thing of men wanting a young, fertile woman, and I suppose the pressure on women to feel that men won't be interested after a certain age. So it's a difficult one. I think when we're young, then you're going to be with somebody a similar age. I think as life goes on, then things can change.
Well, we've sent our love correspondent, Justin Dealey, to Luton train station this morning, which, as we all know, very, very erotic. Luton train station.
Yeah, baby.
You've been all over the place this morning, Justin.
Yes.
Just remind us that some of the stories you've broken this morning.
Okay. In the first hour, I was in Barton. A man fuming in his words, because outside his house there was a street light which has been on since June last year, and the council there, they can't turn it off because they can't get a ladder. Health and safety.
We have had an electrician on the phone. You don't need a ladder. You just need a key to open the box. My producer, Kelly Betts, is going to phone the council up today and chase this up.
Really?
We're going to get this sorted.
Yeah, we'll get it sorted. I've been in Luton talking about cricket balls.
Hang on a second, I'm not finished. I'm the new JVS.
You?
I'm the new slicker.
Yeah.
Some would say better.
Yeah.
JVS.
Right.
Yes.
Lovely.
Yes,
lovely.
Carry on.
Yes, in Luton talking cricket balls, and also talking prostitution in Luton as well, of course. That serious story about Hightown. So it's all been happening, and now you've sent me out onto the streets to be asking people personal relationship questions about this perfect age gap. This is what people have had to say. Well, madam, you've been in a relationship with a significant age gap. How many years are we talking here?
25 years, Justin.
And you were 25 years older. Do you think that age is just a number?
It definitely is. You're as young as you feel.
So when you was in that relationship, did you think that people looked at you in a different light because there was such a significant age gap?
No, they didn't at all. They accepted us for what we were, so there was no issue with the age at all.
Okay, madam, you've been in a relationship with quite a big age gap. How many years are we talking here?
14.
And were you 14 years younger or 14 years older? There's a rude question for you.
Older.
14 years older?
Yes.
Did it work out?
No.
Was that because of the age, do you think?
No. No, not at all.
He was just a bit of an idiot, was he?
Yeah.
Could say that. I mean, according to the survey out today, they're saying that the best age gap would be 4 years and 4 months for the man, to be older than the lady. Would you go along that, or at the end of the day, is age just a number?
Age is just a number.
Well, Angela, this survey out today says that the perfect age gap in a relationship is for the man to be 4 years and 4 months older. You would go along with that because that's exactly what's happened in your relationship for, the last 27 years?
Yeah, that's right. He's 4 years older than me.
So that you would say then that is the perfect age gap. You can still get along together and it's just perfect for you.
It seems to work for us. I don't say everything was perfect. No relation's perfect, but if you're willing to work at anything, it'll be fine.
Okay, and just lastly, Ian's been saying this morning that any age gap above 10 years, it's never going to work out. Would you go along with that? What's your personal view on that?
Personal view, I think it could work. I think it could work if you get the right people.
Well, I don't think... And also, Justin, interestingly enough, okay, right, in terms of the bigger age gaps of 10 years and over, all the calls, all the Facebooks that I've spotted... It's the bloke who's older, not the woman. So the bloke's like 47. There's one here. Who's this? Vicky on Facebook. She's 33. He's 53. You don't get it the other way around, do you?
No. I mean, that lady in the first piece there, 25 years. She was 25 years older. That certainly, in my experience of talking to people, is pretty rare.
Yeah.
My relationship, it's 4 years and 9 months. I'm older.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it is kind of perfect until you start talking about things like Bros. You know, Bros back in 1987, and then suddenly you get this blank look. You know, that was a big part of my life, but she doesn't remember Bros. Who doesn't remember Bros?
Drop the boy, drop the boy.
When will I be famous? You know, it's a big
Justin,
part of my
you
life.
keep trying and you might get there one day.
Yeah.
Why would you be discussing Bros with your partner? Why would you want to do that?
They were big back in the day. You know,
They were.
things like Bros and Neil Sedaka and things like this.
I had a row with one of Bros.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the ones that looks like the other one. Because I interviewed him on Radio 4, right? One of Bros on Radio 4, and I'm interviewing...
What were you doing on Radio 4?
I used to have
Short
standards.
stuff, yeah.
And I had to interview Bros, one of Bros, right? And I made a reference to Bros, and because the big thing, do you remember that all the 13-year-old girls wore Grolsch beer bottle tops on their shoes,
yes,
in their laces, and so I made mention to this, right? And in the interview live, as it went, it started. He went, "That is the worst introduction I've ever had." And I thought, right, and he was there to promote his new single. And I thought, right, I'm not going to mention your new single now. And I didn't until right at the end. I did. It was 4.5 minutes. I did 4 minutes and 15 seconds about Bros, and he hated it. Then at the end, I went, I believe you've got a new record out. It's coming out on Monday. Is it good? Thanks very much for joining us.
Wonderful.
And that was it. And at the end, he came up and he had a right go at me. He had a right go at me.
Fair play to you.
I don't know which one it was. It was Luke or Jason.
Any man who takes on Bros, you've got to be brave. You've got to be brave to do that.
You've got to have something. And Justin, before we let you go, I've got to ask, the big story this morning has been the missing parrot. Any sign of Charlie, the missing parrot, this morning?
Do you know what? I've not seen this missing parrot. I've heard about him. I'm even hearing that we are running this story in our news bulletins.
It's big.
It's big. It's going right the way across Beds, Herts and Bucks. I haven't seen him. I came into contact with a parrot about 2 months ago. Very friendly chap who was eating nachos. Yep, absolutely true. This one apparently has got a bit of a taste for nuts, but I've not seen this parrot. I'm sorry. I haven't got him here in the radio car.
I hope we find it soon, because JVS is cleaning off his rifle and loading it on. I want Charlie to get home in one piece.
Oh, don't we all?
Justin, excellent stuff. Speak to you later on.
Thanks, Ian.
When I say later on, I mean in the office, just like as regular guys hanging out. We don't really get on in real life. It's all for the radio. My hubby is 13 years younger than me. It's not me, it's Tanya and Milton Keynes speaking on the text. It's no problem at all. He knows more about the old days than me. Oh dear. We're very happy. And Lucy in Bedford again. Look, it's all younger women and older blokes. There's no blokes going, well, yeah, I'm 20 and my missus is 45. My husband is almost 23 years older than I am. We've been to 23 years. 23 years. We've been together for 9 years and married for almost 4. We have a little boy and have never been happier. I'd like to know the ages and that. How old is he? That's a phone in for another day. Old parents. You don't want to be I'm 40 this year. I don't know if I've mentioned it. And my youngest is 1. I would be reluctant to have kids any older than 40. Because when I'm 50, he's going to be... Jeez. When I'm 50, he's going to be like 11. Oh, my goodness. When I'm 60, he's going to be 20. I might not... Here's a depressing thought for the end of the show. I might not live to see my children get married. On that bombshell. Oh, dearie me. Has anyone got a drink handy? I might not... Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow at some point. The older parents. I might not live to see my boys get married. Boys! Ah, dear. Here's the travel news now. Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Looks like the earlier problems we had on the M1 around Bricket Wood have since returned to normal. The A505 are also looking good now following the earlier shed load, which has been cleared. Now the A120, that's Stortford Road heading west through Standon, is still slow, however, heading west at the High Street. And the A405 at North Orbital Road, again queuing approaching the M25 where you would expect. Now we do still have delays of over an hour anti-clockwise on the M25. Delays there between 21 at the M1 and 15 at the M4. And also again moving on to the trains, delays of 45 minutes on First Capital connecting Bedford and Brighton following the snow, and also on Greater Anglia delays of 30 minutes between Stratford and Bishop Stortford, all following an obstruction on the line at Tottenham Hale. Now it was affecting the Stansted Express a little bit earlier, but looks like it has all been cleared now. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sophie?
Yes?
Ginger?
Yes?
Go and have some fresh ginger. Boil it up.
Oh, I thought you were telling me I have red hair.
No, I would never be so rude. Go and boil up some fresh ginger, a bit of honey, drink that, and don't whisper, it makes it worse.
Okay.
Speak to you tomorrow. Speak to you tomorrow. Right, that's it. That's your lot. Back tomorrow at 6. JVS is up next. Until tomorrow, ta-ta.
Getting Beds, Herts and Bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Ian. Good morning. Welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon Smith. Oh, it's freezing out there. It's Tuesday morning, but on this morning's big phone-in,